Hey everyone, we've updated our channel name from Chinese Novel Audio Wave to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Nothing else will be changing. We're still uploading a new video every day, bringing you the best Chinese novel audiobooks. Let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1101. It's him, he's awake. After Lu Chen dealt with the disciples of Tianyu Hall, he glanced at the disciples of other halls present with cold eyes. At this time, those disciples woke up from their dreams and one after another they distanced themselves from each other. Junior brother Lu, we didn't take action just now. All this has nothing to do with our Fengyan Palace. We didn't take any action, we just came over to take a look. Junior brother Lu, we are going to look for opportunities, so we won't disturb your cultivation. Then all the disciples were frightened and quickly fled the scene, and soon only the Xinyu Palace disciples were left on the scene. Lu Chen thought to himself that killing so many Tianyu Palace disciples at once would be enough to get him imprisoned in the Jingxin Tower. He only had to wait for Dao Xuan's small world to open again. Thinking of this, Lu Chen looked at the people in Xinyu Palace. Seeing Lu Chen suddenly looking at them, the disciples of Xinyu Palace couldn't help but feel shivers down their spines. Although they were from the same palace as Lu Chen, the ruthlessness of Lu Chen's attack just now really scared them. Liang Zikong said awkwardly, "Junior brother Lu, I am really sorry, our strength is low and we can't help you much." Lu Chen said with a smile, "Senior brother, what are you talking about? It is a great kindness to me that my senior brothers and sisters can help me at this time." Liang Zikong was really embarrassed. "Junior brother Lu, where are you going to go next? Why don't we go together? It's better to have someone to take care of you to prevent someone from secretly attacking you." Lu Chen said, "No need, I have other things to do." Liang Zikong said, "That's it, then let's say goodbye." Lu Chen's strength was too strong. Liang Zikong no longer worried that Lu Chen would be assassinated. He killed the disciples of Tianyu Palace who entered Dao Xuan's small world with one move. I'm afraid no one would dare to look for Lu Chen in the future of trouble. Then Liang Zikong left the place with the other disciples of Xinyu Palace, and soon only Lu Chen was left standing on the edge of the cliff. Lu Chen looked into the distance, looking at the intertwined Dao Yun in the sky, feeling the joy of his soul, and felt a little doubtful in his heart, could he really cultivate all the Dao? Then Lu Chen flew into the air and found a cave with relatively strong spiritual energy. After entering the cave, Lu Chen sat down cross-legged and began to feel the Taoist charm of this world. In a moment, the strange phenomenon just now appeared again in Dao Xuan's small world, and countless Dao Yun intertwined and flew towards the place where Lu Chen was. Seeing such a strange phenomenon appear in the sky again, the disciples of Dao Xuan's small world no longer had the excitement as before. They suspected that this movement was caused by Lu Chen again. However, some disciples still approached the caves where Dao Yun gathered with uneasiness. When people discovered that Lu Chen was in the cave, they were all frightened and disappeared. Without anyone to disturb him, Lu Chen quickly calmed down and felt the charm of this world. Soon, the gathered Dao Yun surrounded his body, and countless avenues emitting golden light appeared in Lu Chen's sea of consciousness. These roads finally converged on one main road, and that road was the way of creation that Lu Chen first realized. The Tao of creation has evolved into 3,000 avenues. Lu Chen understood the Tao of creation, which is equivalent to understanding all the avenues. After the birth of the avenue of creation, the avenue of life first evolved. The avenue of life and the way of creation have many similarities, so Lu Chen mistakenly thought that the avenue of life was the way of creation at first. At this time, Lu Chen's consciousness was walking on the path of creation. The birth of the universe was constantly playing back around the path of creation. I don't know why, but Lu Chen always had a feeling when seeing the scenes played back on the path of creation. A very familiar feeling, as if this universe was created by him. As time passed by, Lu Chen's consciousness reached the place where the path of creation evolved into other avenues. Just when Lu Chen reached the end of the path of creation, all the avenues of the universe chimed in unison, and all the great emperors sensed that a phantom seemed to appear on their path. For a time, the great emperors of the universe asked each other to know what happened. What's going on? Why does a figure appear on my avenue? Who is that person? Why did he leave a shadow on my avenue? There is also a figure on your avenue. Is it true? Is it possible that the person on our avenue is the same person? The same person? Are you kidding? How can anyone understand so many avenues at the same time? At the same time. Deep inside the Tianji Tower. In the starry sky pavilion, Zhan Tian suddenly opened his eyes widened and his face was full of horror. It's him who woke up. No, this era must end quickly. He must not be allowed to wake up. A certain star field. On a purple fairy ship, Zhan Qingyan quietly felt the echoes coming from the deep space of the universe. She whispered softly, the avenues are singing together. He is about to wake up. The first stage is about to begin. Lu Chen didn't know that the world had turned upside down outside. His consciousness looked at the thousands of avenues in front of him and fell into deep thought. Since the way of creation he understood as the beginning of all great ways, does that mean he can call on the power of any great way? Lu Chen then withdrew his consciousness and left the avenue of creation. After Lu Chen opened his eyes, without any hesitation, he directly faced a spiritual grass in the cave and tried to use the power of the avenue of death. The next moment, the spiritual grass was entangled with black air and soon died. Lu Chen was delighted. He didn't expect it to be true. He could really mobilize all the power of the great Tao. Lu Chen then closed his eyes again and continued to comprehend the Tao rhyme on his body. Although he could indeed use the power of other great Taos, because there were too many great Taos, he was not particularly familiar with them and was not very skilled when calling them. The most urgent thing was to be familiar with all the power of the great Tao, so that it would be much easier for him to use them in the future. The following time, Lu Chen was familiar with various powers of the great Tao in the Daoshuan small world. Time passed day by day, and the experience of the Daoshuan small world was over. When the passage of Lu Chen's Daoshuan small world was opened again, Lu Chen's body was also sent out by the Daoshuan small world. When the disciples of the Daoshuan small world appeared in the square, the atmosphere in the square made them feel extremely dull. The whole square was silent, and no one spoke. At this time, the death energy on Emperor Xuanming was beating, and the momentum on Emperor Yanyu was also rising, looking as if he was ready to take action at any time. Lu Chen glanced at the surroundings and saw Emperor Xuanming staring at him with murderous intent. Lu Chen smiled faintly. It seemed that his business should be done. Just as Emperor Xuanming was about to say something, the Lord of the Law Enforcement Hall spoke first. Lu Chen, do you know your crime? Hearing this, Lu Chen replied calmly, disciple does not know. The Lord of the Law Enforcement Hall snorted coldly. Daoshuan small world is a place for you to comprehend the great Tao, not a place for you to kill each other. Although the disciples of Tianyu Hall attacked you first, they were just for the opportunity after all, and you actually killed them directly. With such a mentality and such a strong murderous heart, even if you grow up, you will be a disaster. Next, you will go to the Jingxin Tower to face the wall and reflect on your mistakes. Wait until the palace master finishes his retreat, and then listen to the palace master's disposal. End of this chapter. Chapter 1102. Are you here to see me or her? After hearing the words of the head of the Law Enforcement Hall, Lu Chen did not show happiness. Although his purpose is indeed to enter the meditation tower, if he acts too excited, it may be obvious to others. The meditation tower is a place where people are punished. If you are still so happy after being punished, even a fool knows there is something wrong. Lu Chen sneered and said, the disciples of Tianyu Palace want to kill me, so how can it be my fault if I resist? Senior, don't you know the difference between right and wrong? Hearing Lu Chen's words, the head of the Law Enforcement Hall frowned and scolded, you can resist, but there is no need to kill them. And how do you know they want to kill you? Lu Chen glanced at Emperor Xuanming, and then said, Senior, do you think I am a fool? Someone's son in Tianyu Palace wants to compete for the position of the Holy Sun. If I don't die, how can the position of the Holy Sun fall to him? Quote. When Lu Chen said this, his eyes swept across Emperor Xuanming's body, and when he saw Lu Chen looking directly at him, the death energy in Emperor Xuanming's body suddenly surged. Emperor Xuanming shouted loudly, "Damn! What are you talking about?" The master of the law enforcement hall immediately said, "Lu Chen, how can you slander the emperor?" Apologized to Emperor Xuanming immediately. Lu Chen sneered and said, "Everyone present knows very well what Emperor Xuanming thinks. There is no need for me to slander him." Emperor Xuanming couldn't bear it anymore. The emperor cannot be insulted. No matter how talented Lu Chen is, he is just a monk at the 6th level of Ruin's realm now. How dare he speak to him like this? If Lu Chen continues to be so arrogant, what will others think of him? The next moment, Emperor Xuanming slapped Lu Chen with his palm. Emperor Yanyu frowned and shouted, "Xuanming, do it." As soon as he finished speaking, Emperor Yanyu appeared in front of Lu Chen, and then clapped out the same palm. The two palms collided, and the entire square shook instantly. Emperor Xuanming said coldly, Lu Chen not only killed my disciples in Tianyu Palace, but also slandered me in public here. Are you really going to protect him?" Emperor Biyu said calmly, "How to punish Lu Chen, we will wait until the palace master comes out of seclusion. As for whether Lu Chen has slandered you, you know it yourself." Emperor Xuanming was about to say something more when the master of the law enforcement hall released the pressure of the emperor. For a moment, the auras of Emperor Yanyu and Emperor Xuanming were suppressed. "That's enough. Lu Chen, no matter what, it is a fact that you harmed your fellow disciples. From now on, you go to the meditation tower and face the wall to reflect on your mistakes. As for your speculations, they are pure nonsense. Emperor Xuanming is also a great emperor after all, and he is not as narrow-minded as you think." Seeing that the master of the law enforcement hall had said so, Emperor Xuanming had no choice but to let it go. Emperor Xuanming also heard it, and the master of the law enforcement hall was also reminding him not to lose anything in front of the disciples of the Yunhua Palace. The identity of the emperor. A great emperor actually took action against a monk who had returned to the ruins realm at this time. It was indeed unpleasant to hear this spread. The disciples of Tianyu Palace in Daoshuan's small world can still use fighting for opportunities as an excuse to attack Lu Chen, but now if Emperor Xuanming personally takes action, it will basically confirm what Lu Chen said. By then, Yunhua Palace, how would the disciples from other halls view Tianyu Hall and Yunhua Palace? The master of the law enforcement hall glanced at the emperor present, and then asked, "Everyone, I wonder if you have anything to say." Emperor Hunyuan said with a smile, "You are the master of the law enforcement hall. You can just watch and deal with it. We have no objection." Emperor Yanyu also said at this time, "I listen to my senior brother." Emperor Xuanming clenched his fists, glanced at Lu Chen with a murderous look on his face, and then said, "I have no objection either." The master of the law enforcement hall then looked at Lu Chen, "Okay, you go to the meditation tower now." Lu Chen shouted loudly, "I don't accept it." Seeing that Lu Chen wanted to continue making trouble, the master of the law enforcement hall immediately raised his big hand. The next moment, a huge vortex appeared under Lu Chen's feet. In a moment, Lu Chen disappeared on the spot. After Lu Chen disappeared, the master of the law enforcement hall continued, "Okay, the Dao discussion conference will continue." When Lu Chen opened his eyes again, he found himself in the endless desert. Lu Chen released his spiritual consciousness to investigate. There were many human bones in the desert who were still meditating. It seemed that those people were locked in the meditation tower until I couldn't get out even if I died. At this time, Tianqian World. Yancheng Imperial Palace. Lu Chen's quasi-emperor came to Lu Qingqiu's palace. Lu Qingqiu was meditating. After feeling Lu Chen's breath, Lu Qingqiu immediately opened his eyes. "Are you here to see me or her?" Hearing this, Lu Chen walked to Lu Qingqiu's side and hugged her soft and plump body. "Why do your words sound sour? Why, are you still jealous of yourself?" Lu Qingqiu said expressionlessly, "She is her, and I am me." Lu Chen said, "If you know what to do so clearly, you can see that I've never been jealous of my own body." Hearing this, Lu Qingqiu rolled his eyes at Lu Chen. "Can you also call him a clone?" Lu Chen does not have a so-called clone at all. Lu Chen's body was created by Lu Chen using the method of creation, and all bodies have only the same soul, unlike the clones created by other monks that have their own consciousness. Lu Qingqiu was too lazy to continue talking to Lu Chen, so she immediately asked, "Tell me, what's the matter? She has been thinking about you recently." Lu Qingyan knew that Lu Chen had gone to Yunhua Palace and had been worried about Lu Chen's safety. She was afraid that Lu Chen's identity would be exposed and Empress Dusheng would know that he was the man who violated her innocence. Lu Chen said, "My clone is already in the meditation tower, but the place I am in is a desert. I want to ask Qingyan how to leave the level where I am." As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, Lu Qingqiu's eyes flashed, and his whole demeanor changed instantly. "Have you entered the meditation tower?" There was some disbelief in Lu Qingyan's tone. Not long after Lu Chen arrived at Yunhua Palace, he actually sneaked into the Jingxin Tower. Not everyone can enter the meditation tower. Lu Chen instantly noticed that the person in his arms had changed. He smiled and asked, "How is it, Yuner? Please be surprised." Lu Qingyan calmed down her emotions and looked worried. "There are guards on each floor of the meditation tower. The higher you go, the better the environment. I am on the first floor now. You said that the place you are in is a desert. That big the probability is on the first level." Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. He thought he could take Lu Qingyan away after entering the meditation tower, but he didn't expect that entering the meditation tower was just the beginning. After Lu Chen came to his senses, he immediately asked, "How many floors does the meditation tower have?" Lu Qingyan replied, 13th floor. Lu Chen fell into silence. "On the 13th floor, I'm afraid I need to spend some effort." Just when Lu Chen was distracted, Lu Qingyan continued, "The guardians on each floor of the Jingxin Tower have the strength of a quasi-emperor." Speaking of this, Lu Qingyan also fell silent. End of chapter. Chapter 1103. It seems her lover has arrived. Lu Chen's clone is only at the 6th level of Guishu realm, and it is impossible for him to be a match for the quasi-emperor, so it is almost impossible for Lu Chen to go to the upper level of the Jingxin Tower. In other words, everything Lu Chen did before was in vain. After the two were silent for a moment, Lu Chen suddenly said, "Don't worry, I have a way to reach the top floor." Lu Qingyan asked curiously, "What method?" "The guardians of each floor of the Jingxin Tower will not allow people inside to run around unless there is an order from the palace master or the lord of the law enforcement hall." Lu Chen smiled and said, "You will know soon." At this moment, Lu Chen in the Jingxin Tower opened his eyes, and circles of Taoism suddenly appeared in front of him. Seeing these Taoism, Lu Chen's mouth corners slightly raised. His way of creation is the beginning of all the avenues. He can now use other avenues, so he is very familiar with the power of the avenue in the Jingxin Tower. The Jingxin Tower can create so many small worlds, which is nothing more than using the avenue of space. Now he can also use the avenue of space, and his understanding of the avenue of space is more profound than the person who created the Jingxin Tower. Although his clone's strength could not destroy the meditation tower, it was not a big problem to use the space avenue to travel freely in the meditation tower. Lu Chen then used the power of the avenue to connect the spatial Dao rhymes in the meditation tower, and the next moment, a spatial vortex appeared in front of him. Lu Chen was delighted, and it worked. He stepped into the spatial vortex without hesitation. When the light appeared in front of him again, he had come to a Gobi desert, but compared with the desolation of the first floor, this floor obviously had more low plants. Lu Chen used the power of the space avenue again to continue connecting the spatial Dao rhymes in the meditation tower. Then, a spatial vortex appeared in front of him again, and Lu Chen then went to the next floor. With his current strength, he could only go up layer by layer, but that was enough, as long as he could reach the top floor. The top floor of the meditation tower. In the sea of flowers, Lu Qingyan's body sat in a thatched hut, looking at the sea of flowers in the distance, and didn't know what he was thinking. She was a little curious. Could it be that Lu Chen really had a way to bypass the guardian and reach the top floor? Isn't Lu Chen's clone at the level of Guishu realm? How could he bypass the guardian? Don't be discovered by then. When she thought of this, Lu Qingyan's face looked a little gloomy. Just when Lu Qingyan was distracted, suddenly, a space vortex appeared in the sea of flowers. Seeing this space vortex, Lu Qingyan was stunned. The next moment, her body couldn't help but stand up, staring at the space vortex. Expectation, tension, fear, intertwined in Lu Qingyan's heart. She didn't know who was coming. Was it Lu Chen, or someone else? At this moment, Lu Chen stepped out of the space vortex. Seeing Lu Chen's figure, Lu Qingyan was stunned for a while. Although she always wanted to see Lu Chen again, when she really saw Lu Chen, she didn't know how to react. Perhaps it was because she remembered that when she first met Lu Chen, she was manipulated by him in various ways, which caused her to have some resentment towards Lu Chen in her heart. The resentment and longing merged together, making her feelings towards Lu Chen a little complicated. Lu Chen, really, it's you. Lu Qingyan opened her lips slightly and murmured. Seeing Lu Qingyan standing there with an expression of disbelief on her face, Lu Chen smiled and said, I have a way to reach the top floor. Okay, now is not the time to talk about this. Lu Chen did not forget what he came to do. He immediately took out the spirit stone and began to build the saint-level teleportation array. In a moment, Lu Chen built the saint-level teleportation array. Then he came to Lu Qingyan, grabbed Lu Qingyan who was still confused, and went directly into the saint-level teleportation array. When the two entered the saint-level teleportation array, the teleportation array gate located in the meditation tower instantly exploded, and the explosion immediately spread throughout the meditation tower. The entire meditation tower was shaking violently. In a secret room in Yunhua Palace, Empress Dusheng suddenly opened her eyes. She also felt the strangeness of the Jingxin Tower. The next moment, the pressure on her body was released instantly. Then, she took a step forward, her body disappeared on the spot, and appeared outside the Jingxin Tower. At this time, the other emperors of Yunhua Palace also suspended the discussion meeting and all came to the outside of the Jingxin Tower. Empress Dusheng looked at the emperors indifferently. What happened? Why is there an abnormality in the Jingxin Tower? The emperors looked at each other, and they had just arrived at the Jingxin Tower. At this time, the guardian on the top floor suddenly appeared in front of Empress Dusheng. Palace Master, something bad has happened. Saint Lu Qingyan has escaped. Hearing this, all the emperors were stunned. Escaped. This is the Jingxin Tower. Lu Qingyan was able to escape from the Jingxin Tower. Without a token, even the emperor was locked in the Jingxin Tower and couldn't get out for a while, but Lu Qingyan was able to escape. How did she do it? Empress Dusheng didn't ask any more questions. Her figure disappeared again. The next moment, she appeared in the flower sea on the top floor. The flower sea had been blown upside down, with gullies everywhere and broken spirit stones scattered everywhere. Other emperors also quickly came behind Empress Watanabe. Seeing this chaotic scene, the emperors fell silent. Not only did Lu Qingyan escape, she actually destroyed the top floor of the meditation tower like this. The meditation tower has strong suppression, and the higher you go, the harder the suppression becomes. It stands to reason that Lu Qingyan has no strength now, let alone causing such a big damage. Empress Dusheng released her spiritual power to explore the situation on this level, and soon she understood what happened. She snorted coldly and said, "It seems that her lover is here." Hearing Empress Watanabe's abrupt words, the emperors looked at each other. Lover? What lover? Empress Watanabe then turned to look at the emperors behind her, who entered the meditation tower just now. Hearing this question from Empress Dusheng, the head of the law enforcement hall felt a little bit in his heart. After he came to his senses, he quickly said, "Just now, a disciple killed his fellow disciples in the Daoshuan small world and was imprisoned in the meditation tower by me." Quote. Empress Dusheng immediately understood what was going on. She sneered and said, "Disguising yourself as a disciple and sneaking into the Yunhua Palace, and then making mistakes to enter the Jingxin Tower is really deliberate." Seeing what Empress Dusheng said, all the emperors also reacted. Emperor Yanu's face instantly turned pale, and she said that something felt wrong, and there was indeed something wrong with that Lu Chen. At this time, Emperor Xuanming looked at Emperor Ziyu with a look of gloating. You brought that Lu Chen back. Could it be that you knew his identity and deliberately brought him back to help him take Lu Qingyan out of the meditation tower? Quote. Emperor Yanyu ignored Emperor Xuanming and immediately said to Empress Du Sheng, "Please tell me, Palace Master, I don't know that Lu Chen has any ulterior motives." End of chapter. Chapter 1104. For me, the more the better. Hearing the conversation between Emperor Xuanming and Emperor Yanyu, Empress Du Sheng immediately guessed what happened. Taiwan Novel Network. Method. G. Situation. Then she glanced at the emperors who were watching the show. Yanyu stays, and everyone else goes back. Hearing this, the emperors said in unison, "Yes, Palace Master." Then the emperors left the Jingxin Tower, leaving only Emperor Yanyu and Empress Du Sheng. Empress Du Sheng asked coldly, "Didn't I ask you to be the protector of the saint? Why did you come back?" Emperor Yanyu hurriedly said, "Palace Master, when I was protecting the saint, I found a 16-year-old boy in the Guishu realm. I saw that he was so talented, so I separated a wisp of soul and brought him back. But who would have thought that his purpose was Lu Qingyan? Please punish me, Palace Master." Hearing Emperor Yanyu's words, Empress Du Sheng pondered for a while. She did not blame Emperor Yanyu, but asked, "Tell me the process of your meeting that person and what he did in Yunhua Palace." "Yes, Palace Master." Then Emperor Yanyu told Empress Du Sheng where she met Lu Chen, what Lu Chen did in Yunhua Palace, and what kind of strange phenomena he caused in Daoshuan's small world. After listening to Emperor Yanyu's words, Empress Du Sheng's face became even uglier. It was the first time she heard that there was another cultivator who had comprehended the great Tao of life in this world, which made her curious. Did Lu Chen break Lu Qingyan's innocence because he really liked Lu Qingyan, or did he know that Lu Qingyan was the body she was preparing to take over? Although cultivators on the same avenue are very friendly most of the time, there are some exceptions. That is, when there are very few cultivators on this path, the cultivators on this path do not want the existence of other people. Take the way of killing for example. Now the only emperor who masters the way of killing is Emperor Shenwu. If Emperor Shenwu finds out that there are other quasi-emperors who master the way of killing, he will definitely try his best to get rid of them. As long as he is the only one on the way of killing, he can enjoy the killing power of the entire way of killing alone. Empress Du Sheng suspected that Lu Chen wanted to destroy her reincarnation plan, so as to get rid of her, a fellow practitioner, and then he could control the entire way of life alone. Thinking of this possibility, Empress Du Sheng sneered, "With such a big appetite, aren't you afraid of being stuffed to death?" Empress Du Sheng has basically confirmed that Lu Chen is an emperor who follows the way of life. As for the fact that the clone he created can confuse Emperor Yanyu, she doesn't find it strange at all. It is too easy for an emperor who masters the way of life to create a clone that confuses the emperor. She can create such a clone herself. In any case, the hatred has been made. Anyone who dares to destroy her plan of taking over the body must die. Empress Du Sheng then said to Emperor Yanyu, "Forget about this matter. If something similar happens again in the future, you know the consequences." Hearing Empress Du Sheng's warning, Emperor Yanyu broke out in a cold sweat. Emperor Yanyu also understood that if it was in the past, Empress Du Sheng would definitely punish herself, but now the catastrophe is coming, they all have to prepare for the catastrophe, so Empress Du Sheng did not punish her. However, Empress Du Sheng could not always be so good-tempered. Emperor Yanyu quickly said, "Please rest assured, Palace Master, from now on I will never bring anyone into Yunhua Palace privately again." Empress Du Sheng then asked, "How is the saint's experience?" Emperor Yanyu said, "Palace Master, the saint is heading towards the edge of the universe. She said she wants to go back to the place where she was born." Empress Du Sheng frowned. Go back to the place where she was born. So, she hasn't cut off her mortal thoughts yet. Wanting to go back to her birthplace proves that Lai Hongyun still has thoughts about people or things in the past, which is not a good thing, at least not for her. She doesn't want to see Lai Hongyun as a person with feelings. With Lu Qingyan as a precedent, Lai Hongyun will be alert to the Du Sheng Empress if he shows any feelings. The Du Sheng Empress then said, Keep an eye on her. If there are things in her hometown that she misses, find a way to clean them up. Emperor Yanyu understood what the Dusheng Empress meant. Yes, Palace Master. The Dusheng Empress glanced at the chaotic scene in front of her again, sneered and said, "Don't let me find you." Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Lu Chen took Lu Qingyan directly back to Lu Qingqiu's bedroom in the Yancheng Palace. Lu Qingqiu originally planned to practice with Lu Chen's quasi-emperor body, but the next moment two figures appeared in the room. Seeing the Lord God suddenly appear in his bedroom, Lu Qingqiu's jade hands that were unbuckling Lu Chen's belt stopped. She didn't expect Lu Chen to bring back the main body so quickly. The main body's consciousness was still extremely desperate just now, but she was rescued in less than half an hour. Seeing her main body, Lu Qingqiu felt a little complicated. She knew very well that Lu Chen liked the main body much more than her. Although she and the main body were exactly the same, every time Lu Qingyan leaned over her, Lu Chen became very violent. As everyone knows, in Lu Chen's case, the more ferocious he behaved, the more he liked this woman. In the past, Lu Chen always treated her as the main body. Now that the main body was brought back by Lu Chen, her role as a substitute was gone. Perhaps she should disappear in the future. Lu Qingqiu looked at Lu Qingyan and said with a complicated expression, "Since you have been rescued, we should also completely merge." Although Lu Qingqiu was a little reluctant in her heart, considering that Lu Qingyan often used her body to do dirty things with Lu Chen, she was used to it and let it go. The relationship between her and Lu Qingyan was different from that between Yun Shenxian and Yun Qingxiu. The connection between her and Lu Qingyan was closer. Lu Qingyan only needed a thought to control her body. Lu Qingyan heard her reluctance from Lu Qingqiu's tone, and she said lightly, "If you want to continue to exist, we can also not merge." Lu Qingqiu looked at Lu Chen on the side. "What do you think?" Lu Chen raised his hand, stroked Lu Qingqiu's jade cheek and said, "For me, of course, the more the better." Lu Qingqiu gave Lu Chen a speechless look. "Okay, let's not talk about this anymore." Qingyan finally escaped from the sea of suffering. Of course, we have to celebrate. As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, his body in the Guishu realm disappeared on the spot, and then Lu Chen's emperor main body appeared beside Lu Qingyan. Feeling the pressure emanating from Lu Chen, Lu Qingyan was slightly stunned, and a cold white appeared on her mature and beautiful jade face. Although she has been using Lu Qingqiu's body to do dirty things with Lu Chen for these years, it is a clone after all, and all the feelings will be weakened to a certain extent. But the main body is completely different. The scene of her being manipulated by Lu Chen in the red sedan chair appeared again in her mind. At this moment, Lu Chen's low voice sounded in Lu Qingyan's ears. "You seem to have said that as long as I can rescue you, you will let me do whatever I want from now on. Right." End of this chapter. Chapter 1105 Doubtful Lai Hongyun. Hearing Lu Chen's devilish moan, a strange feeling instantly surged into her heart, and her body trembled and became weak. Ever since she was imprisoned in the meditation tower, she had actually been fantasizing about such a day, but when she really faced the tyrant Lu Chen, she felt fear in her heart. She had never thought that she would actually be rescued by Lu Chen. In her opinion, although Lu Chen had great potential, the Great Xia Dynasty was not on the same level as the Yunhua Palace, and Lu Chen could not rescue her at all. Seeing that Lu Qingyan suddenly stopped talking, Lu Chen's hands went directly through her armpits, hugged her soft waist, and then continued to whisper in her ear, "Yuner, you are so beautiful." Google search Twakan. Lu Chen's closeness made Lu Qingyan feel a masculine breath. And the veil on her body was as thin as a silkworm's wing, as if the two bodies were already pressed together, and Lu Chen could clearly feel the heat of her skin. Seeing that Lu Chen's main body was teasing Lu Qingyan's interest, Lu Qingqiu on the couch looked at Lu Chen's secondary body and said, "So that's what you're thinking." Lu Chen smiled and said, "What's the idea?" Lu Qingqiu snorted coldly and didn't say anything more. Lu Chen had done enough ridiculous things, and it was normal for Lu Chen to let the main body and the secondary body serve him at the same time. At this time, Lu Qingyan's jade cheeks were slightly red. Although Lu Qingqiu was her secondary body, Lu Chen did that to her in front of his secondary body, which still made her feel ashamed. Lu Chen's main body hugged Lu Qingyan's slender waist and slowly came to the edge of the couch. When Lu Qingyan approached the couch, Lu Chen turned her around and hugged him from the front. Being stared at by Lu Chen's fiery eyes, Lu Qingyan, who was usually cold as ice, couldn't stand it anymore. Her body gradually softened. If Lu Chen hadn't hugged her, I'm afraid her body would have collapsed directly. Lu Qingyan tried to stabilize her body, still holding on to her emotions, looking at Lu Chen coldly and said, "Am I your collection now?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "What collection or not, don't say it so harshly, you are my woman." Speaking of this, Lu Chen gently put Lu Qingyan on the couch, and then slowly pressed on her. After Lu Qingyan lay on the couch, she put her hands on both sides of her shoulders, tilted her head to one side, and did not dare to look directly into Lu Chen's eyes, pretending to be ready to be picked. Seeing the Ice Beauty's resigned look, Lu Chen thought of what happened in the red sedan chair, and for a moment Lu Chen's blood surged in his heart. Just when Lu Qingyan thought that Lu Chen was going to ravage her next, she suddenly heard Lu Qingqiu's voice from the side. "Ah, what are you doing, Lu Qingqiu thought that the protagonist today would be Lu Qingyan. After all, Lu Qingyan was the main body, but Lu Chen did not attack Lu Qingyan, but took the lead in reaching out his magic hand to her. Lu Qingyan looked to the side and saw Lu Chen's quasi-emperor body tormenting Lu Qingqiu. Lu Qingyan was stunned for a moment. At this time, Lu Chen's voice came to her ears. "Oh, sorry, it's a habit." Lu Chen's soul controlled two bodies. It might be because Lu Qingyan often possessed Lu Qingqiu, which made Lu Chen excited and mistook Lu Qingqiu for Lu Qingyan. Seeing Lu Qingqiu being tortured, Lu Qingyan always felt strange in her heart. At this time, Lu Chen reached out a hand, pinched her chin, and turned her face to look at him. Although Lu Qingyan's face was still cold, her cold jade cheeks were already covered with red clouds. At this time, Lu Qingyan asked, "Was I also your woman in my previous life?" Hearing this question, Lu Chen's hand that was about to tear off Lu Qingyan's clothes stopped in midair. Lu Chen stared at Lu Qingyan's cold eyes and asked, "Have you awakened the memory of your previous life?" Lu Qingyan said indifferently, "Some." Ever since she did that kind of thing with Lu Chen, some memory fragments would appear in her mind from time to time. Those memory fragments were all scenes of her and Lu Chen living together, so she suspected that she had some relationship with Lu Chen in her previous life. Even if it was not the previous life, it was the previous life. At least she had an intersection with Lu Chen in one of her lives. Of course, she also suspected that this was Lu Chen's method, but she didn't think that Lu Chen would use such a complicated method to get her as a woman. Lu Chen said, "To be honest, I don't know if we had any relationship in our previous lives." Speaking of this, Lu Chen grabbed Lu Qingyan's belt and gently pulled it hard. Tear. Lu Qingyan looked at Lu Chen speechlessly. Although she didn't lack clothes, he didn't need to be so anxious. Lu Chen seemed to like tearing clothes. Lu Chen gently stroked Lu Qingyan's body and said, "I gradually discovered that the women who had a relationship with me in this life basically had some connection with my previous life, or the previous life." Lu Qingyan was slightly stunned when she heard Lu Chen's words. So, she might have had some kind of relationship with Lu Chen in her previous life. So this is why she was brought to Lu Chen by the red sedan. Lu Chen continued, "I have only recovered part of my memory. When I completely recover my memory, maybe everything will be clear." "Okay, let's not talk about this. No matter whether we had any relationship in our previous lives, you are already my woman in this life." Speaking of this, Lu Chen's body sank slightly, and then he leaned down and kissed Lu Qingyan. Lu Qingyan struggled slightly. After all, it was the second time that the main body had direct contact with Lu Chen. She was a little uncomfortable for a while, but soon she completely accepted Lu Chen. After a while, the movements of Lu Chen's main body and the secondary body began to synchronize. At the same time, Fengyang Star Region. Lai Hongyun stood in the void, looking at the metal starships coming and going in the distance, and the whole person was in a trance. She was a little suspicious whether she had gone to the wrong place, or whether she had been teleported to another universe. After seeing this scene, Emperor Yanyu on the side had the same feeling as Lai Hongyun. Lai Hongyun was a little puzzled. This should be the Fengyang Star region, right? When did the Fengyang Star region become like this? What are those metal ferry boats? Why is the ferry gold on those ferry boats so scarce? And it seems that the way those metal ferry boats move forward is not to use spiritual power to drive. Can these immortal boats be driven forward in the void without spiritual power? Emperor Yanyu turned his head and looked at Lai Hongyun. Saintess, this star field is too strange, let's leave for the time being. Emperor Yanyu, as the master of Yunhua Palace, has been to countless star fields, even to the outer fields, but it is the first time she has seen such a strange scene. And it stands to reason that the Fengyang star field is already located at the edge of the universe. It should not be so prosperous, but it is abnormally prosperous here. Those metal immortal boats come and go, and some saints fly through the void from time to time. It is so lively. Lai Hongyun was silent for a moment, then looked at a world emitting purple light below. Let's go to this world first. Chapter 1106 Heavenly Emperor. Such an arrogant person. Seeing that Lai Hongyun insisted on staying in Fengyang Star region, Emperor Yanyu didn't say much. Then the two came to a nearby life world. As soon as they entered the life world, they were shocked by the scene in front of them again. This life world is full of high-rise buildings, and there are endless metal boxes between the high-rise buildings, which look like some kind of cars. Not only are there cars on the ground, but there are also countless flying boats in the sky. The prosperity of the whole world has exceeded that of the main star of Yunhua Palace. Emperor Yanyu frowned, and immediately released his spiritual sense to explore the whole world. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network. The strongest person in this world is only a quasi-emperor, but this world is in a strong dynasty luck. Even if it is a quasi-emperor, his strength may be able to fight against the emperor who has just broken through. Emperor Yanyu said to himself, it's really weird. As soon as Emperor Yanyu finished speaking, a voice suddenly came from the sky. I wonder why the senior came here. The next moment, a middle-aged quasi-emperor appeared in front of Emperor Yanyu and Lai Hongyun. Zhang Qingfeng was practicing in seclusion just now, and suddenly felt a strong divine thought sweeping across the world. He thought that an emperor had invaded, so he hurried out of the practice room. However, after seeing that there were only two people on the other side, Zhang Qingfeng was slightly relieved. Judging from the other side's appearance, it seemed that they were not here to attack the Great Xia Dynasty, otherwise they would not be so relaxed. Emperor Yanyu asked directly, what dynasty is this? Seeing Emperor Yanyu asking this question, Zhang Qingfeng thought to himself that it seemed that the other party was an emperor who passed by here by chance. Zhang Qingfeng did not hide it and answered directly, reply to the senior, this is the Great Xia Dynasty. Hearing Zhang Qingfeng's answer, Lai Hongyun was slightly stunned, the Great Xia Dynasty. If she remembered correctly, it was Daxia that destroyed her dynasty, right? She remembered that when she left Chaos Star Sea, Daxia was still just a dynasty, and it was hiding in Chaos Star Sea. It has only been a few years, and Daxia has become a dynasty, and even the power of Daxia has spread to Fengyang Star region. Fengyang Star region is the star region ruled by Qingyan dynasty. Even Fengyang Star region has been occupied by Daxia dynasty. Does that mean that the entire Qingyan dynasty has been destroyed by Daxia dynasty? Which man grows so fast? Although she always thought that Lu Chen was also the reincarnation of the emperor, Lu Chen's speed of recovering strength was too fast. She was also the reincarnation of the emperor. She thought that her speed of recovery was not comparable to that of many reincarnations of the emperor. For a moment, Lai Hongyun's eyebrows frowned slightly. She returned to Chaos Star Sea again to solve the marriage line. To solve the marriage line, it is nothing more than killing Lu Chen, or letting it go and becoming Lu Chen's woman. As a reincarnated emperor, she was actually unwilling to commit herself to others. Although she had not made up her mind to kill Lu Chen, she had such an idea in her heart. Now that Lu Chen has developed the Great Xia Dynasty to its current scale, it means that Lu Chen's strength has far exceeded hers, and her way of killing Lu Chen is doomed to fail. In this case, it seems that she can only commit herself to him. Seeing that Lai Hongyan had not spoken and his eyes were a little cold, Emperor Yanyu immediately asked, "Saintess, have you found anything?" Lai Hongyan did not answer Emperor Yanyu's question, but looked at Zhang Qingfeng in the distance and asked, "Who is the emperor of your Great Xia Dynasty?" Zhang Qingfeng thought for a while. He did not answer immediately. After a while, he said, "The emperor of the dynasty should be Emperor Sha Tian." Although Lu Chengfeng is the emperor of the Great Xia Dynasty today, in fact, the entire Great Xia Dynasty is still in the hands of Lu Chen, and Lu Chen is also the founder of the Great Xia Dynasty, so Zhang Qingfeng thinks that the real emperor of the dynasty is still Lu Chen. After hearing Zhang Qingfeng's answer, Emperor Yanyu laughed, "Emperor of Heaven. What an arrogant person. Not everyone can be called the Emperor of Heaven. Even the powerful Emperor Shenwu and Empress Dusheng dare not call themselves the Emperor of Heaven. The ruler of a dynasty on the edge of the universe dares to call himself the Emperor of Heaven. He really doesn't know how to live or die." Zhang Qingfeng frowned when he heard Emperor Yanyu's contemptuous tone. Although the person in front of him is an emperor, not everyone can look down on the Emperor of Heaven, not to mention that the other party is in the Great Xia Dynasty. Zhang Qingfeng then said, "Please take back what you said." Emperor Yanyu sneered and said calmly, "No one in this universe dares to call himself the Emperor of Heaven, not even the one from the Shenyu dynasty. I don't know who gave the courage for the lord of your dynasty to call himself the Emperor of Heaven." Zhang Qingfeng said seriously, "If you don't take back what you said just now, please leave the Great Xia Dynasty immediately. The Great Xia Dynasty does not welcome you." Emperor Yanyu said lightly, "It is worthy of being a dynasty founded by someone who calls himself the Emperor of Heaven. Even a quasi-emperor dares to be so arrogant in front of me." While speaking, the aura of the emperor on Emperor Yanyu was instantly released, and a powerful pressure made Zhang Qingfeng's body bend slightly. Although Zhang Qingfeng barely had the ability to fight the emperor under the blessing of the Great Xia Dynasty's luck, Emperor Yanyu was an old emperor after all. Her strength was much stronger than that of ordinary emperors. It was not easy to deal with Zhang Qingfeng, a quasi-emperor. Zhang Qingfeng gritted his teeth and tried to hold on. He believed that Emperor Sha Tian should have known what happened here. After all, he was the lord of the dynasty, and every move of the Great Xia Dynasty was under his control. Just as Zhang Qingfeng was thinking this, a huge voice sounded in the sky, "Who dares to make trouble in my dynasty?" As the voice fell, a huge force descended from the sky. Emperor Yanyu couldn't resist for a moment and spurted out a mouthful of blood. A flash of surprise flashed in Emperor Yanyu's eyes. How could there be such a powerful emperor on the edge of the universe? Who is this person? After Emperor Yanyu stabilized his body, he immediately asked, "Who are you? Dare to claim to be the Emperor of Heaven? Aren't you afraid of being punished by the way of heaven or being attacked by other emperors?" After hearing what Emperor Yanyu said, Lu Chen snorted and laughed and said, "Why should I look at other people's faces when I do things?" Hearing this, Emperor Yanyu's face became even gloomier. Crazy. It's really crazy. This so-called Emperor Sha Tian is simply ignorant of life and death. Lu Chen continued, "The Great Xia Dynasty does not welcome you. You can get out." As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, a huge force suddenly pushed Emperor Yanyu out of the Great Xia Dynasty. When Emperor Yanyu reacted, he was already in the void. Looking at the Fengyang Star region in the distance, Emperor Yanyu's brain was stunned. Not good. The saint is still in there. Emperor Yanyu did not hesitate at all, and directly used the Great Emperor's Dharma image. A huge figure appeared in the void. Emperor Yanyu blasted out with a palm, and the palm energy as big as a star blasted towards the Fengyang Star region. Hand over my palace, saint, immediately. End of this chapter. Chapter 1107. I follow the path of killing. Lu Chen had no intention of taking action against Emperor Yanyu's attack. With the fairy umbrella here, an attack from an emperor would have no impact on the current Great Xia Dynasty. Just as Emperor Yanyu's palm was about to hit the entire Fengyang Star territory, suddenly, a barrier emitting light blue light appeared in the void. Emperor Yanyu's palm hit the light blue barrier without any ripples. Emperor Yanyu looked at this scene in disbelief. What the hell is this? He was able to easily block her 5th-level attack from the Great Emperor. Emperor Yanyu was unwilling to give in, so he took action again. Veiling Seal. Countless Dao marks appeared around the Great Emperor's Dharma appearance, and the next moment, these Dao marks all crashed into the light blue barrier. However, there was still no movement in the light blue barrier. Emperor Ziyu was a little panicked. As Lai Hongyun's protector, if anything happened to Lai Hongyun, Empress Dusheng would definitely punish her. This time is different from what happened with Lu Chen. After all, what Lu Chen took away was only the previous saint, a saint who had been deposed, while Lai Hongyun was the current saint, a saint who had high hopes for the Empress. If something happens to the current saint under her protection, Empress Watanabe will definitely be furious. Emperor Ziyu then continued to attack the protective barrier of the fairy umbrella, but it still had no effect. After Lai Hongyun discovered that Emperor Yanyu was squeezed out of the Great Xia Dynasty by Great Xia's fate, he became vigilant for a while. The first time she met Lu Chen, she could clearly see Lu Chen's desire for her from Lu Chen's eyes. In addition, there was already a marriage line between them. Now that she had thrown herself into a trap, then I'm afraid there's no need to think too much about what Lu Chen will do to her next. Lu Chen let her go last time because the two of them were about the same strength. This time Lu Chen had become the emperor, and it was impossible for him to let her go again. When Lai Hongyun was distracted, a figure suddenly appeared next to Lai Hongyun. Lai Hongyun felt as if he was facing a powerful enemy, and the killing energy in his body was also released. Feeling the murderous aura from Lai Hongyun, Lu Chen was a little surprised. He didn't expect that there would be another person similar to Empress Tianong. Lu Chen asked with a smile on his face, "We haven't seen each other for a while, why are you so guarded against me?" Lai Hongyun said, "Congratulations, you have restored your cultivation as a great emperor in such a short time." Lu Chen said, "We are happy together." Speaking of this, Lu Chen glanced at Lai Hongyun's status. The reincarnation of the Empress, the saint of Yunhua Palace, the direct disciple of the Empress Dusheng, a first-level saint. Affected by the marriage line, her cultivation is difficult to improve. She plans to return to the Chaos Star Sea and find a host to cut off the marriage line. Seeing Lai Hongyun's status, Lu Chen thought to himself, marriage line. Can she also see the marriage line? Then Lu Chen calmed down, released his consciousness, and sensed the cause and effect between the two. Sure enough, they found that Lai Hongyun's body was wrapped with a red marriage thread, and the other end of the marriage thread was himself. Lu Chen then took a look at Lai Hongyun. Lai Hongyun was wearing red clothes, holding a long sword in his hand, with a single ponytail, revealing his white forehead, and exuding the cold temperament of a heroine. "You came to me this time to cut off the cause and effect." Hearing Lu Chen's question, Lai Hongyun was slightly startled. She didn't expect that Lu Chen had guessed her purpose. Lai Hongyun quickly realized that Lu Chen was the great emperor, so it was not surprising that he could see the marriage line between them. Now that he saw the marriage line between them, he could certainly guess the purpose of her return this time. As the reincarnation of an empress, it is impossible for her to want to be controlled by others, so her purpose is obvious. Lu Chen continued, "Since there is a marriage line between you and me, it proves that we should have a marriage. Why do we always want to cut it off and let nature take its course?" Lai Hongyun said expressionlessly, "I am the reincarnation of the great emperor." Hearing Lai Hongyun's answer, Lu Chen said with a smile, "Is it possible that you want to say that the emperor cannot be insulted? Not to mention that you are no longer the great emperor. You cannot cut off the cause and effect between us. So what if you are the great emperor? You are the great emperor and I am also the great emperor. The relationship between us is equal. This is also true for you. It's not really an insult." Lai Hongyun's face was still cold. Although she said so, as a great emperor, how could she commit herself to others? Lai Hongyun directly released the killing energy in his body and continued, "I follow the path of killing." Lai Hongyun's meaning is very simple. The way of killing is very similar to the way of being ruthless. People who have too much killing power cannot have emotions, otherwise they will easily suffer the backlash of emotions. Lu Chen said calmly, "Come with me, I will take you to meet someone. After he finished speaking, Lu Chen waved his hand and directly used the space teleport to bring Lai Hongyun to a magnificent palace. There are red curtains hanging everywhere in the palace, and the red cloth is covered with phoenixes embroidered with gold thread. The entire palace looks very grand and luxurious. In the middle of the palace, there was a big bed, and in the middle of the bed sat a woman wearing a phoenix robe. There was no queen in the Xia Dynasty, but each of Lu Chen's wives and concubines could wear phoenix robes. It could be said that all of his wives and concubines were queens. But Lai Hongyun didn't know this. When she saw the woman in front of her, her heart trembled and she thought, is this the queen of Xia? Why does she exude a murderous aura? Just when Lai Hongyun was distracted, Tiannong Empress opened her beautiful eyes. After looking at Lai Hongyun with her red eyes, her gaze fell on Lu Chen. Who is she? Lu Chen smiled and said, my woman, I brought her to see you. You both follow the path of killing, so I guess you have something in common. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Tiannong Empress instantly understood what Lu Chen meant. This guy regarded himself as a benchmark, and brought this woman in front of him just to tell this woman. You see, even this woman who masters the power of killing is my woman, and you can also be my woman. After guessing Lu Chen's purpose, Tiannong Empress felt very unhappy in her heart, frowned slightly, and the killing power on her body instantly filled the entire palace. The Rainbow Queen said coldly, I am not your property, we are just partners. Lu Chen ignored the words of the Rainbow Queen, but turned his head to look at Lai Hongyun and said, do you feel the killing power in her? She is a great emperor who proves the way by killing. Not only do we often practice dual cultivation, but she is also pregnant with my child. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lai Hongyun was a little unbelievable. A great emperor who masters the way of killing would actually commit himself to someone, and even get pregnant with the other person's child. How is it possible? But after seeing the marriage line wrapped around the empress in front of her, she had to believe Lu Chen's words. The marriage line on this empress is thicker than hers, and it is obvious that her relationship with Lu Chen is already extraordinary. Although she doesn't seem to have a good relationship with Lu Chen, it can be seen from the marriage line that she and Lu Chen are obviously completely bound together. This is the great emperor who proves the way by killing. How did this man do it? End of this chapter. Chapter 1108 Become his woman, there is no turning back. Lai Hongyun didn't react for a long time. Feeling the strong killing power of Tiannong Empress, Lai Hongyun's mind went blank. Seeing that Lu Chen didn't take her words seriously at all, Tiannong Empress said coldly, it's already seen, you can go out. Having been entangled with Lu Chen for countless times, Tiannong Empress also knew how thick-skinned Lu Chen was, and she was too lazy to get angry with Lu Chen. Lu Chen smiled faintly, okay, I won't disturb you from practicing. While speaking, Lu Chen waved his hand, and the two came to the outside of the palace. At this time, Lai Hongyun's brain was still in a state of confusion. Lu Chen said, emotions will not affect your ability to prove your truth by killing. On the contrary, being with me will not only not affect your recovery of cultivation, but will accelerate your recovery of cultivation. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lai Hongyun came back to her senses and asked in confusion, why? Lu Chen said, you can ask the Tiannong Empress, the one just now, or you can practice dual cultivation with me directly, then you will understand why. Lai Hongyun's jade face became cold again. In the final analysis, this man was just thinking about her body. But she was more interested in what he said. What she wanted to know more now was why the Empress became Lu Chen's woman and why she had to give birth to Lu Chen's child. Lu Chen suddenly thought of something, and then continued, her situation is similar to yours. She was only in a spiritual state at the beginning. Later, with my help, she not only recovered her physical body, but also quickly recovered her cultivation to the realm of the emperor. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lai Hongyun showed a trace of doubt. Is it really as he said? Or is this man fooling her? Thinking of this, Lai Hongyun asked, I have fallen into your hands. You can do whatever you want. It seems that you don't need to tell me so much. Lai Hongyun was a little puzzled. The heat in this man's eyes was too obvious. It was obvious that he wanted her body. With his current strength, it was not impossible to attack her directly. Why did he say all this to her? She suspected that Lu Chen had other purposes. Lu Chen said with a smile, "If it was before, I might have taken action directly. Maybe this is growth. Next, you will stay in the Great Xia Dynasty." Lai Hongyun reminded, "I am now the direct disciple of the palace master of Yunhua Palace. If you don't let me go, it will be a disaster for you." Lu Chen said lightly, "The former saint of Yunhua Palace is practicing dual cultivation with my master at this time. For me, it's not a big deal to kidnap another saint. The feud has been made. If Yunhua Palace wants to attack the Great Xia Dynasty, then come." Seeing Lu Chen so confident, Lai Hongyun was extremely confused. That was Yunhua Palace, a superpower in the universe. Even though she didn't dare to go against Yunhua Palace in her previous life, Lu Chen didn't care about offending Yunhua Palace at all. She and Lu Chen were both reincarnations of the emperor. Lu Chen's cultivation recovered faster than hers, and Lu Chen was even crazier than her. What was the origin of this man? Lu Chen said, "I won't restrict you too much. You can go wherever you want in the Great Xia Dynasty. I won't take the initiative to cut off the marriage line. When you think clearly, come to Tianqian World to find me." Lu Chen's mind has changed a lot compared to the beginning. In the past, Lu Chen urgently needed to improve his strength. In addition, the women he liked were all stunning, and he couldn't control himself, so he was always anxious to possess the women he liked. But as he had more and more women, he valued spiritual conquest more. After all, he had enough women. If he was in the mood, he could always find a wife to live in harmony with. As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, he disappeared on the spot. After not being able to sense Lu Chen's aura, Lai Hongyun stood in the palace, looking a little confused. Now it seems that her marriage line cannot be cut off. Could it be that she can only become Lu Chen's woman and practice dual cultivation with Lu Chen? Just when Lai Hongyun was distracted, a huge force suddenly pulled her. Before Lai Hongyun could react, her eyes went dark. When the light appeared again, Lai Hongyun found herself in the bedroom of Tianong Empress again. Lai Hongyun asked, "I wonder what the senior wants to see me for." Although she is also the reincarnation of the emperor, her cultivation has not recovered after all. It is normal to be humble in front of the real emperor. Tianong Empress did not speak immediately. Her red eyes swept over Lai Hongyun's body, and it was unknown what she was looking at. After a long while, Empress Tianong asked, "Did you follow the path of killing before reincarnation?" Although she didn't know why Empress Tianong asked this question, Lai Hongyun answered truthfully, "No, I followed the path of ruthlessness in my previous life." This is also why she didn't want to have a marriage line on her body. If she, a cultivator who turned from ruthlessness to killing, was stained with emotions, she might fall into an irretrievable situation if she was not careful. After hearing Lai Hongyun's answer, Empress Tianong fell silent again. Seeing that Empress Tianong had not spoken, Lai Hongyun took the initiative to ask, "I wonder if you are willing to become that person's Taoist partner." After hearing this question, Empress Tianong snorted coldly, and the next moment a majestic pressure descended, and Lai Hongyun was almost crushed to the ground by this pressure. Fortunately, the Rainbow Queen quickly controlled her temper. After she came to her senses, she said coldly, "I am not his Taoist partner. We are just cooperating." Lai Hongyun said, "Junior understands. I misunderstood." Lai Hongyun is not a fool. Although the Rainbow Queen is a cooperative relationship, the marriage line on the Rainbow Queen is so thick. And the Rainbow Queen took the initiative to give birth to Lu Chen's child. What kind of cooperative relationship is this? If you say that the Rainbow Queen has no feelings for Lu Chen, she will definitely not believe it. However, the Emperor also wants to save face, just like her. The Rainbow Queen continued, "If you want to follow the path of killing and become his Taoist partner, practicing dual cultivation with him is indeed the best choice." Seeing that the Rainbow Queen said so, Lai Hongyun became more curious. The path of killing requires killing, so why is becoming Lu Chen's Taoist partner the best choice? Lai Hongyun immediately asked, "Why is that?" The Rainbow Queen did not answer directly. After all, it was not easy for her to say such things. You will understand when you practice dual cultivation with him. Although Lai Hongyun was puzzled, since even this queen said so, it was probably true. She was a great emperor who mastered killing, so she would not lie to her about such things. Lai Hongyun continued to ask, Junior has another question. How many years did it take for the senior to recover from the soul state to the great emperor's cultivation? The Rainbow Queen said expressionlessly, less than 50 years. Hearing this answer, Lai Hongyun was stunned again. How did Lu Chen do it? Is the effect of dual cultivation so good? The Rainbow Queen could also see that Lai Hongyun was moved. She sneered and said, since you call me senior, I remind you that if you become his woman, there is no turning back. Since becoming Lu Chen's woman, the Rainbow Queen quickly became addicted to practicing with Lu Chen and could no longer extricate herself. End of this chapter. Chapter 1109. There can be no cause and effect between you and me. As a great emperor, Empress Tianong can certainly control her sexual desires. But since she became pregnant with Lu Chen's child, the child in her body has been frantically absorbing her killing power. This has led to her having to find Lu Chen to practice in order to avoid a regression in her cultivation. However, no matter how much she and Lu Chen cultivate together, it is still difficult for her to improve her cultivation, which falls into a vicious cycle. And after feeling the evil aura caused by killing Lu Chen's seed of life, she no longer had such a strong impulse to kill. Instead, she wanted to keep killing Lu Chen's seed of life. Killing the seeds of life not only accumulated evil energy, but also gave her a sense of revenge. As time went on, she gradually became obsessed with this kind of thing. In the beginning, she and Lu Chen were separated for a long time. Only when her cultivation fluctuated did she find Lu Chen. But during this period of time, even if her cultivation level had not fluctuated, she would still run to Lu Chen for dual cultivation. When she thought that she had been deceived by Lu Chen, Empress Tianong wanted to take revenge on Lu Chen. When she wanted to take revenge on Lu Chen, she would kill Lu Chen's life seed. To kill Lu Chen's life seed, she would need to practice double cultivation. Doing dual cultivation would make her feel that she had been tricked by Lu Chen, which would continue to aggravate her desire for revenge against Lu Chen. Then he had to practice double cultivation again for revenge. This creates a vicious cycle. Hearing Empress Tianong's reminder, Lai Hongyun was slightly stunned. She didn't understand the meaning of this now. However, Lai Hongyun still said respectfully, "Thank you, senior, for reminding me." Empress Tianong looked at Lai Hongyun again, and then said, "You have an aura that I am familiar with. Have you been to the outside world?" Lai Hongyun said, "This junior has indeed been to the outer realm in his previous life, and he died in the outer realm." Empress Tianong fell into deep thought. She always felt that she had seen Lai Hongyun somewhere, but she just couldn't remember it. At this time, Lai Hongyun looked at Empress Tianong, and suddenly felt that she was very familiar with Empress Tianong, as if she had seen her somewhere. Strange, why does she feel like this? At this time, Empress Tianong released her spiritual thoughts, explored Lai Hongyun's body, and checked to see if there was any cause and effect between them. As a result, after some investigation, nothing was found, and there was no cause and effect between them. Lai Hongyun knew that Empress Tianong was probing her, and she also checked to see if there was any causal relationship between her and Empress Tianong. She came to the same conclusion as Empress Tianong, that there was no causal relationship between them. Maybe it's just because they both follow the path of killing that they feel like they've met each other. Just when Lai Hongyun was thinking this, Empress Tianong suddenly said, "That's not right." Hearing Empress Tianong's abrupt words, Lai Hongyun was startled, and then asked, "I wonder what the senior discovered." Empress Tianong said, "There can be no cause and effect between you and me." Lai Hongyun was a little confused. Why couldn't there be no cause and effect between them? They have nothing to do with each other, so how can there be cause and effect between them? Empress Tianong continued, "The cause and effect between you and me is too clean. There is a marriage between you and that person, and there is a marriage between me and him. The cause and effect between you and me cannot be so clean." Hearing what Empress Tianong said, Lai Hongyun reacted instantly. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Yes, even if she had no relationship with Empress Tianong in her previous life, she and Empress Tianong had already crossed paths in this life because of Lu Chen. How could it be possible that there was no cause and effect between them? There is no cause and effect, which means that the cause and effect between them has been cut off, so there is no cause and effect at all. They didn't know each other in the previous life, how could they cut off the cause and effect? If it is to cut off the cause and effect, it means that one of them did it. Why would one of them cut off the cause and effect between them? Empress Tianong said, "It seems that we did have intersections in our previous lives. Because we cut off the cause and effect, I have forgotten who you are." After cutting off the cause and effect, both parties will gradually forget about each other until that person disappears from their memories forever. Both women are a little puzzled. One was a great emperor who mastered killing in his previous life, and the other followed the path of ruthlessness. How did they intersect, and most importantly, why did they take the initiative to cut off the cause and effect? Under normal circumstances, the emperor cuts off the cause and effect because they cannot resolve the cause and effect now, and they can only cut off the cause and effect at the risk of being backlashed. Although the emperor has the ability to cut off cause and effect, it is not without any cost. The backlash caused by cutting off cause and effect is likely to severely damage an emperor. Of course, the backlash of cutting off cause and effect is related to the size of the cause and effect. If it is just a small cause and effect, even if it is cut off, there will be no strong backlash. But for those small causes and effects, the emperor's strength can easily solve them, and there is no need to take the initiative to cut them off. At this time, in the huge palace, the two women looked at each other. You looked at me and I looked at you. They both wanted to know what the relationship between the woman in front of them and themselves was in the past life. After a long while, Empress Tianong said, "Since the cause and effect have been severed, there is no need to mention the past." Although they didn't know why they had to cut off the cause and effect with each other, they must have made such a decision under the circumstances of having no choice. Perhaps for them at that time, cutting off the cause and effect was the best choice. The past is over. Now they have ushered in a new beginning. There is no need to dwell too much on what happened in the past. Lai Hongyun said, "The senior is right." Tianong Empress continued, "Okay, you can do your own thing. As for how you choose, it depends entirely on you." Although Tianong Empress said so, she knew in her heart that Lai Hongyun had no choice. Soon there would be another woman in Lu Chen's harem. It fell on Lu Chen's lips. How could Lu Chen, this bastard, let it go? Although Lu Chen looked like he would not embarrass her, this was just an appearance. Tianong Empress had been with Lu Chen for so many years and knew Lu Chen very well. In her eyes, Lai Hongyun was the next person to be played by Lu Chen. Perhaps she knew what kind of relationship Lai Hongyun had with her in his previous life. When she thought of what Lai Hongyun would experience next, Empress Tianong felt a little sorry. Lai Hongyun did not stay in Empress Tianong's palace. She bowed to Empress Tianong and left. After leaving Empress Tianong's palace, Lai Hongyun looked at the edge of the universe. She was not in a hurry to make a choice. Even though Empress Tianong had said that practicing dual cultivation with Lu Chen would be good for her, she planned to wait for a while. She wanted to see what the situation was like in the Great Xia Dynasty first. Chapter 11:10 The demonic rebellion begins. As time goes by, the universe becomes more and more chaotic. In order to obtain more resources to resist the catastrophe before the arrival of the epical catastrophe, all the major forces are constantly expanding outward. Especially after the Shenyu Dynasty and Tianji Tower announced their alliance, those super forces also came out one after another, and even some Holy Land level forces began to expand outward. The entire universe is in a state of chaos, while the Xia Dynasty is thriving. In the star field controlled by the Xia Dynasty, commercial trade has become more and more developed, and the flow of people between the star fields has become more and more frequent. Every time Lu Chen sees those starships coming and going, he once felt that he was not traveling to the world of cultivation, but to the technological universe. Of course, only the Xia Dynasty has so many technological creations. As the chaos of the universe intensifies, Lu Chen is also trying to help his women improve their strength. He created more bodies, and now each wife and concubine can get one of his bodies. He has to practice with his wives and concubines almost every day. Even people like Zhou Xiaoxiao and Zhou Yuyu who don't like to practice, Lu Chen will force them to practice. What Lu Chen was most worried about was that some of them would die in the epical catastrophe. If all of them died, then they would die. If they could not live together, dying together was also a good choice. If everyone died, they would not be sad. But if someone died and someone else survived the epical catastrophe, it would be a pain for the living. Lu Chen hoped that his women and children would survive. The only thing he could do now was to supervise their cultivation and strive to improve their strength. In this way, after the epical catastrophe came, they would have more hope of surviving. In the small courtyard covered with green plants, cries came from inside. The small courtyard had rockery and flowing water, pavilions and terraces. At the door of a room, there were a few maids who seemed a little agitated, and their faces were flushed. At this moment, in the room, Zhou Yuyu, lying on the couch, turned her head slightly, revealing a pitiful look, and looked at Lu Chen behind her. "Your Majesty. Your Majesty, I don't want to practice anymore." Lu Chen said seriously. "Yuyu, you can't be so lazy. Look at your sister, she practices so seriously, and she never complains." Hearing this, Zhou Yuyu's big eyes flashed with a spring of light, and she looked like she was about to cry. Although practicing is not painful for her, if the mental stimulation is too much, she still can't stand it. At this time, Zhou Yuyu turned her head slightly and looked at Zhou Xiaoxiao who was practicing on the side. Lu Chen's clone and Zhou Xiaoxiao hugged each other head-on. Their lips touched, and Zhou Xiaoxiao could only make a sound of humming. Zhou Yuyu was a little helpless. No wonder her sister never complained or said anything. She couldn't even speak, so of course she wouldn't complain. "Ying ying ying, Your Majesty has changed. Your Majesty was not like this before, he was not so cruel back then. I won't force her to practice." Seeing Zhou Yuyu staring at Zhou Xiaoxiao, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Don't look at your sister, continue practicing, hurry up and practice." Seeing that Lu Chen was still unwilling to let her go, Zhou Yuyu had to continue practicing. Just then, a woman's voice came from the door. "Your Majesty, there is important information." Hearing this, Zhou Yuyu's eyes lit up. Although Lu Chen had many clones, at this time, Lu Chen had to spare a clone to deal with things. "Can't I rest?" Thinking of this, Zhou Yuyu hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, please go and deal with things quickly. I will practice hard and won't bother Your Majesty." Hearing Zhou Yuyu's words, Lu Chen's mouth corners slightly raised, and the next moment, he casually created a clone. Seeing a clone appearing out of thin air in the room, Zhou Yuyu was stunned. Then, the clone left the room, and Zhou Yuyu continued to practice under Lu Chen's urging. After Lu Chen's clone walked out of the room, he looked at Bai Qingqing, who was wearing white armor. The smooth white armor was tightly attached to Bai Qingqing's slender waist, showing her curvy figure perfectly. Seeing Lu Chen staring at her, Bai Qingqing was slightly stunned. She knew that Lu Chen was vigorously urging his wives and concubines to practice, and she herself had been urged many times by Lu Chen's main body. Bai Qingqing quickly diverted Lu Chen's attention. "Your Majesty, the 13th Legion discovered a large number of demons while patrolling the edge of the universe." Hearing this, Lu Chen immediately put away his lustful eyes and his face became serious. Then, he sensed the location of the 13th Legion of the War Dragon Army. The next moment, his Emperor's second body and Bai Qingqing appeared on the starship of the 13th Legion. At this time, the people on the starship were still discussing fiercely. "That should be the demon, right? How can the demon be so weak?" "What do you mean weak? It's because we are too strong. I never thought that one day we would be able to kill the demon so easily. But then again, why are there so many demons in this place? It is rumored that before the great catastrophe of the era comes, a large number of demons will appear. Could it be?" Alas, the great catastrophe is coming. Just as the soldiers of the War Dragon army in the starship were discussing, two figures appeared in the starship. Seeing that the person coming was Lu Chen, the soldiers immediately stopped their discussion and saluted in unison. Greetings to His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven. Lu Chen nodded. No courtesy. Play the video of the encounter with the demon and watch it. The captain quickly took out the projection equipment and turned on the footage recorded by the starship. In the picture, a female soldier wearing a Dragon Army uniform was patrolling in a small spaceship. Suddenly, a huge octopus-like monster appeared on the edge of the dark universe. The monster's black tentacles quickly entangled the spacecraft. At this moment, the woman in the spacecraft launched all the weapons of the spacecraft. In a moment, the small planet-like demon was blown to pieces. After that, various monsters emitting black mist emerged from the edge of the universe. Upon seeing this, the commander of the 13th Legion immediately lined up all the starships in a row, and then used various weapons in turn. Soon the monsters exuding black mist were all blown up by the starships of the 13th Legion. Later, the Legion commander sent people to investigate the monsters exuding black mist. As a result, they found that those monsters had strong demonic powers, force. Not only does it have the power of the demon, but also black gold. Black gold is the substance in the body of the demon that suppresses the demon's rampage. When the black gold appeared, the 13th Legion realized that the monsters they killed were demons, so they quickly reported what happened here. Reported. After watching the battle footage recorded by the starship, Lu Chen fell into deep thought. All this is consistent with the information he has received. Before the catastrophe of the era begins, the entire universe will fall into turmoil and darkness, and the demons will invade at this time. The Great Tribulation is coming in less than 10,000 years, and the demon is indeed about to appear. Chapter 11:11 You should still call me Brother Tiandi. After Lu Chen pondered for a while, he said to the commander of the 13th Legion, "You have done a good job. This time, I will mark your legion's merits as a great achievement." Hearing this, the commander of the 13th Legion said excitedly, "Thank you, Your Majesty, all this is what we should do." After Lu Chen turned off the projection, he looked into the distance. In a corner, there was a woman wearing a black uniform of the Dragon Warrior Army. The woman was tall, with a single ponytail, a delicate face, and a very capable body. When the woman saw Lu Chen's eyes looking over, her eyes visibly dodged, not daring to look directly into Lu Chen's eyes. The next moment, Lu Chen used the system to check the woman's personal information. Name, Qi Qinghen. Identity, the last empress of the Xia Dynasty, 23 years old, 5th level of the Divine Realm. As she grows older, she gradually realizes the gap between herself and her host, and prepares to keep a distance from her host. Rating, 95. Favorability, 100. Seeing Qi Qinghen's personal information, the corners of Lu Chen's mouth raised slightly. Time flies so fast. The girl who called her brother Tiandi has grown up now. In addition, it has to be said that Qi Qinghen's cultivation talent is very rare in the entire universe. She has cultivated to the 5th level of the God Transformation Realm at the age of 23. If she continues at her current cultivation speed, she may become a saint. 50 years old is considered middle age in the mortal world, but in the world of cultivation, 50 years old is considered the beginning of life. Although Qi Qinghen was able to practice so quickly because Lu Chen gave her a lot of training resources, but even without these training resources, Lu Chen believed that with Qi Qinghen's talent, it would not be impossible to achieve the position of emperor within 10,000 years. Maybe it was fate that those people in the Qi family who were greedy for life and fearful of death could leave behind such a talented person. However, as Qi Qinghen grew up, she gradually began to alienate Lu Chen. When she first came to Tianqian world, she always called Lu Chen brother Tiandi when she saw him, and there was no taboo at all. But as she grew up, she realized what kind of existence Lu Chen was, and she realized that it was a miracle that she had survived all these years. As a remnant of the Xia Dynasty, she not only did not hide from Lu Chen, but instead moved closer to him, one after another, the emperor's brother. The emperor cannot be insulted. If it were any other emperor, she might even be thrown into the dust. Lu Chen said at this time, Qinghen, come here. Qinghen was slightly startled when she heard Lu Chen calling her. Then she walked towards Lu Chen. After walking in front of Lu Chen, Qinghen saluted and said, See His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven. Lu Chen said, No courtesy. Lu Chen asked directly, Are you used to being in the 13th Legion? Qinghen replied, Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. I am already used to life on a starship. Everyone in the 13th Legion knew that Qinghen was from the Xia Dynasty, but they also knew that Qinghen was related to Their Majesty the Emperor. Many people in the 13th Legion had seen Qinghen calling her brother Tiandi when she was a child. Faced with Qinghen's title, Tiandi not only did not reject her in any way, but responded to her with a smile. It can be said that the emperor's love for her is no weaker than the emperor's love for his own children. Because of this, after Qinghen came to the 13th Army, the 13th Army took special care of Qinghen. Even though Qinghen was just the lowest soldier at the beginning, no one dared to speak to her in a commanding tone, because people knew that Qinghen sooner or later, he will enter Lu Chen's palace. Seeing Qinghen being so respectful to him, Lu Chen sighed inwardly. Seeing Qinghen's changes, he suddenly felt that things were different and people were different. Although the person is still the same person, it feels like she is no longer her. At this time, Lu Chen glanced at the soldiers present, and then Qinghen continued, Come with me and tell me what you discovered when you met the demon. Having said this, Lu Chen walked towards the starship's combat conference hall. Qinghen seemed a little nervous, but she still followed. After the two entered the war conference hall, the automatic door closed by itself. Lu Chen turned to look at Qinghen and said, We used to talk to each other like brother Tiandi, why are we so unfamiliar now? Lu Chen never thought that Qinghen was a person who met the system's requirements. He liked Qinghen simply because of his affinity. Maybe it was because he also had a daughter, so he seemed to be more tolerant of the innocent Qinghen. Hearing Lu Chen's question, Qinghen's brain froze for a moment, then she lowered her head and said, I am guilty. I was too young and ignorant at that time, and I offended His Majesty. Hearing Qinghen's words, Lu Chen sighed deeply again. Qinghen's words made him realize again what it was to be alone. Lu Chen then said, I still liked you better when I was a child. Qinghen is very beautiful, and she exudes youthful and sunny aura, but she is the only woman in the system who meets the conditions of having many children and being blessed without stimulating Lu Chen's desire. Perhaps because they watched Qinghen grow up, there was a sense of generational difference between Lu Chen and her. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Qinghen's face instantly blushed. Lu Chen had no sexual desire for her, but Qinghen had different feelings for Lu Chen. In Qinghen's eyes, Lu Chen is a gentle, strong, and handsome man. Although she realized the gap in status between her and Lu Chen when she grew up, it was precisely because of this that she admired Lu Chen more and more. A strong man cares about you all the time, not only is he gentle to you, but he is also so handsome. Facing such a man, unless you are a woman with a heart of stone, you will have some feelings in your heart. Lu Chen said at this time, You should call me brother Tiandi. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Qinghen was about to say something, and Lu Chen added again, This is an order. After being said by Lu Chen, Qinghen didn't know what to say. In the end, she could only obey the order and act, Yes, Your Majesty. Brother Tiandi. As soon as she called out the title of Brother Tiandi, the blush on Qinghen's face spread from her cheeks to her entire jade neck. Lu Chen continued, What did you see when you encountered the demon? Although there was a video on the starship, the video just now was blurry. Perhaps it was because the spaceship driven by Qinghen was too far away from the main battleship at the time, so the video was not very clear. The spaceship driven by Qinghen had been destroyed. Lu Chen was too lazy to look for the wreckage of the spaceship, so he just asked Qinghen what he saw. Qinghen came back to her senses, she thought for a while, and replied, Those demons seemed to appear suddenly out of thin air. When they appeared, there was no space fluctuation or space crack around them. Hearing Qi Qinghen's answer, Lu Chen fell into deep thought. Suddenly appeared. Perhaps it was because Qi Qinghen's realm was not high enough and he did not feel the space fluctuation, so he felt that they appeared suddenly. Lu Chen thought for a while and said to Qi Qinghen, "Well, okay, you have a good rest." As soon as the voice fell, Lu Chen left the starship directly and went to the star field where the demons appeared. Chapter 11-12. Military Training. When Lu Chen appeared in the star field where the dragon army and the sky demons were fighting, he clearly felt the power of the sky demons diffused in the void. Taiwan Novel Network. Lu Chen frowned slightly. Where did the sky demons with such a strong power come from? The sky demons' strength must have reached the Guishu realm. The sky demons in the Guishu realm can already compete with the saints. Fortunately, the 13th Legion brought black gold when patrolling. No, Lu Chen suddenly realized something. Black gold can indeed cause some damage to the sky demons, but it will not kill the sky demons in the Guishu realm so easily. The sky demons he saw on the starship video just now were all aimed at by the dragon army's starship. The strength of those sky demons obviously did not reach the Guishu realm. If it was the Guishu realm general on the starship who took action to deal with the Guishu realm demon, there would not be much of a problem, but using black gold shells to destroy the Guishu realm demon in one go was a bit too abnormal. Let alone the demon, even if it was a low-level monster, using black gold might not be completely effective. Black gold itself came from the body of the demon, and there must be some power in the demon to resist black gold, so the lethality of black gold to the demon was naturally very limited. Lu Chen then released his divine thoughts and explored the situation of the nearby star field again. Soon Lu Chen found something wrong. He seemed to feel the power of the Tao of creation. What was going on? At this moment, some black fog appeared out of thin air in the distant void. The black fog spread very quickly. It took less than a quarter of an hour to spread half a light year. Lu Chen then realized that the power of the demon still existing in the star field was not left by the previous demon, but a new demon was born. The strength of these demons was all Guishu realm. At this time, the commander of the 13th Army looked at the large black fog that suddenly appeared, and hurriedly commanded the fleet to prepare for the attack again. Lu Chen glanced at the black fog and did not take action immediately. With his strength as a great emperor, plus he practiced the Chaos Demon Slayer art, he could easily destroy these demons. Then, Lu Chen returned to the starship of the 13th Army. Seeing Lu Chen coming back, the commander of the 13th Army immediately came to Lu Chen. "Your Majesty, should we launch an attack?" Shu Tianlei saw Lu Chen standing in the void without taking action just now. He felt that the Emperor of Heaven should have other thoughts, perhaps wanting to see what these demons looked like, so he did not let the fleet launch an attack, but waited for the Emperor of Heaven's order. Lu Chen said, "This time, the demons that appeared are from the Guishu realm. You should attack with the black gold cannon first. If you can't deal with it, let the soldiers of the transformation realm who practice the burial demon art take action personally." Shu Tianlei instantly understood what Lu Chen meant. The Emperor of Heaven was testing their ability to deal with the demons. After all, the Emperor of Heaven cannot always be by their side. Now that the demons of heaven have appeared on a large scale, the number of demons of heaven will only increase in the future. In the future, the war dragon army of the Great Xia Dynasty will face more battles with demons of heaven. It is still the early stage of the appearance of demons of heaven, and it is indeed time to train the troops well. After Shu Tianlei understood that Lu Chen was training the troops, he immediately said, "I understand, I will do it now." As soon as the voice fell, Shu Tianlei returned to the command cabin of the starship and commanded the starship to attack the spreading black fog. As the black gold cannons exploded in the black fog, the expansion of the black fog also stagnated, and the demons in the black fog gradually appeared. The bodies of those demons of heaven were extremely huge, with various forms. Some demons of heaven looked like animals, some like insects, and some in human form. Seeing these demons of heaven, Lu Chen's expression became extremely serious. With the birth of these demons of heaven, he found that the way of creation of the universe was also automatically opened, and the power of the way of creation was used invisibly. In addition, These demons appeared out of thin air, which means that these demons were probably created by the universe itself. Lu Chen's original guess was that the demons were alien invasive species. In order to eliminate the demons, the universe would indiscriminately kill all creatures in the universe, which is the origin of the epical catastrophe. But now it seems that his guess is completely wrong. The demons are not alien species at all, but a kind of creature evolved by the universe itself. What did the universe want to do by creating so many demons before the epical catastrophe? Could it be that it wanted to use these demons to kill the life of this universe? If it was to kill the life of this universe, wouldn't it be enough to directly start the epical catastrophe? There was no need to create some demons. When Lu Chen was thinking about why the universe created demons, those demons were also rushing towards the starships of the 13th Legion. Food. It's the smell of food. This demon has finally resurrected. Humans, I will tear you into pieces. Ha ha ha, the great catastrophe of the era has begun again, and our time has arrived. The demons in the void were extremely excited, as if the starships of the 13th Legion were just pieces of cake in their eyes. Soon, those demons rushed to the fleet of the 13th Legion. Just as they were about to open the box, the hatches of some starships opened, and hundreds of War Dragon Army soldiers above the God Transformation Realm flew into the void. Seeing those people take the initiative to come out of the box, the demons became more excited. Ants, can't you wait to become the food of this demon? I will enjoy you well, eat you up and leave nothing behind. ... When the demon was about to rush to the front, Shu Tianlei personally led the soldiers to meet him. It is impossible to say that they have no fear in their hearts. After all, this is a demon that even the black gold cannon cannot kill. They saw those demons being easily killed by the black gold cannon before, and thought that all the demons were that kind of stuff. Now it seems that those demons are just some small characters. However, the soldiers of the War Dragon Army also understand that the more fear they have in front of the demon, the stronger the demon will be, so they are trying to be willing to be panic in their hearts. At this time, Shu Tianlei sent a voice message to all the soldiers who left the starship and said, "This is the first time we fight the demon directly. His Majesty is watching from behind. We must not let His Majesty down." Hearing Shu Tianlei's words, the soldiers reacted. Yes, they have the Emperor of Heaven sitting behind them. The Emperor of Heaven is the nemesis of all evil demons. What did they have to worry about? Moreover, as members of the War Dragon Army, they all practice the demon burial technique, which can restrain demonic energy and the power of the heavenly demon, so they have no need to be afraid. When they thought of these 2 points, the fear in the hearts of the War Dragon Army soldiers instantly dissipated. When the heavenly demons saw the War Dragon Army soldiers rushing up without any fear on their bodies, they were all confused. What's going on? As cultivators, shouldn't they be most afraid of the heavenly demon? Why didn't they have any fear after they rushed up? Something is wrong. When those humans came out of the iron box, they still had fear on their bodies, but suddenly the fear dissipated. End of this chapter. Chapter 11-13. The universe is about to be in chaos, you should be prepared. The sudden disappearance of the fear aura made the demons in the void very unhappy. They were enjoying the breath just now, but it was suddenly cut off. This was like a mortal who had been hungry for a month suddenly had his food taken away from him when he was eating. For a moment, the demons were all angry. Although they didn't know why the fear aura on these people dissipated, since these guys couldn't provide the fear aura, they would use their bodies to compensate for it. In a moment, the soldiers of the War Dragon Army and the demons fought. As soon as the soldiers and the demons fought, they found that the black gold weapons in their hands could actually cause huge damage to the demons. You know, even the black gold cannon couldn't blow these demons to death just now. The black gold weapons in their hands were so powerful. With one knife, the demons were either missing arms or legs. The demon power of the demons could not resist the black gold weapons in their hands. Soon someone realized that this was not the effect of the black gold weapons, but the burial demon art in their bodies. The spiritual power in the bodies of soldiers who practice the burial demon art has a purifying effect, which can easily suppress the demonic energy and the power of the demon. For a while, the demons in the void kept wailing. How is it possible? You, an ant, can actually hurt me. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. What kind of power is this? Why can it suppress the demon power of this demon? No, impossible, you are just food. How can food have such powerful strength? Ah, dare to hurt this demon will tear you all apart. Seeing that the soldiers of the War Dragon army performed very well in their first close combat with the demons, Lu Chen showed a gratified expression on his face. Although the fairy umbrella can protect the entire Great Xia Dynasty, most of the War Dragon army starships have to leave the protection range of the fairy umbrella for patrolling. The place where they are now is no longer within the range of the Great Xia Dynasty's luck, and Lu Chen cannot consume power to protect these places. If the soldiers of the War Dragon army encounter the demons, without actual combat, they only know fear, then it will be difficult for them to resist the demons. This battle greatly improved the morale of the soldiers of the War Dragon army. After that, when they encounter the demons during patrols, even if they are stronger, they can remain calm and not be afraid. When dealing with demons, there must be no panic. The more panic, the stronger the demons will be. Any negative emotions of human beings are food for demons. Under the leadership of Shu Tianlei, the demons in the starry sky were soon eliminated by the soldiers of the War Dragon army. Although some soldiers were seriously injured, no one died. The first direct confrontation with the demons was able to achieve such a result, which shows that the War Dragon army has the ability to deal with the demon army. Lu Chen waved his hand at this time, and a force of life flowed into the bodies of the injured soldiers in the starry sky. In a moment, their injuries disappeared. The soldiers immediately realized that it was the Emperor of Heaven who took action, so they saluted the starship where Lu Chen was. In the starship where Lu Chen was, Qi Qinghan came behind Lu Chen. Looking at Lu Chen's broad back, Qi Qinghan didn't know what to say, just staring blankly. At this time, Lu Chen turned his head and looked at Qi Qinghan. Qinghan, I'll go back first. You pay attention to safety. If you encounter any danger, use my puppet to notify me immediately. At this point, Lu Chen took out a puppet of his own. Although he had no sexual desire for Qi Qinghan was a woman who met the system's conditions for having many children and many blessings, and should be given special protection. Seeing the puppet flying in front of him, Qi Qinghan was slightly stunned. In ancient times, witchcraft was emphasized. Even in the imperial dynasty, such evil arts existed, which was a taboo for the emperor. Qi Qinghan didn't expect Lu Chen to give her his puppet. She was a little afraid to accept it. Seeing that Qi Qinghan didn't put away the puppet, Lu Chen asked, "What's wrong?" Qi Qinghan said, "Your Majesty, Brother Tiandi, isn't it a bit inappropriate to use a living person as a puppet?" Lu Chen instantly understood Qi Qinghan's concerns, and said with a smile, "Each of my women has a puppet that looks exactly like me. This puppet can be regarded as my clone, so you don't have to worry about what others say." Ah, Qi Qinghan was stunned for a moment. Lu Chen's women all have such a puppet. Now that he gave this puppet to her, doesn't it mean that in Lu Chen's eyes, she is also his woman? When Qi Qinghan thought of this, her cheeks became hot and the spiritual power in her body was restless. After coming to her senses, she slowly raised her hand and carefully grabbed the puppet floating in front of her in her palm. Lu Chen smiled faintly, and without saying anything else, he directly used the space transfer technique to come to the place where the soldiers of the War Dragon army and the heavenly demon had just fought. Lu Chen released his divine sense again, and after investigating, he found that there was no new demon power in this place. He then confirmed that there was no new demon in this star field for the time being, and then he was ready to leave. Just as he was about to leave, suddenly, the voice of the Rainbow Queen came through his divine sense. A demon appeared in the Xuanyang star field. Hearing this, Lu Chen immediately went to the Xuanyang star field. Now in the Great Xia Dynasty, Lu Chen only needs a thought to reach any place, even if there are dozens of star fields in between. In the blink of an eye, Lu Chen came to the Xuanyang star field mentioned by the Rainbow Queen. At this time, the demons outside the Xuanyang star region had been killed by the Rainbow Empress. leaving only the black gold in the demons' bodies quietly floating in the void. Seeing the piles of black gold in the void, it can be basically estimated that the number of demons just now is no less than 10,000. If it were an ordinary dynasty facing an attack by a group of demons of this scale, it is estimated that the lives of the entire dynasty would turn into piles of bones in an instant. However, when they encountered the Rainbow Empress who practiced the chaos demon slaying art, they could only turn into ashes. After Lu Chen glanced at the black gold in the void, his eyes returned to the Rainbow Empress. I just arrived, and you have already solved all the demons. As expected of the Empress who mastered the power of killing, awesome. Speaking of this, Lu Chen looked at Lai Hongyun standing next to the Rainbow Empress. At this time, Lai Hongyun looked at the floating black gold in the void with a dull face, as if he was stimulated by something. The Emperor can indeed easily kill low-level demons, but the demons that appeared this time were basically demons above the Guishu realm, and the Tiannong Empress only used one move to kill all of them. This scene seriously impacted Lai Hongyun's worldview. When did it become so easy for cultivators to kill demons? Demons have always been the nemesis of cultivators. Why does it seem that the Tiannong Empress is the nemesis of those demons now? Tiannong Empress ignored Lu Chen's praise. She said expressionlessly, the demons are coming out in large numbers, and the universe will be in chaos. You should be prepared. Lu Chen smiled and said, don't worry, I've been prepared for a long time. End of this chapter. Chapter 11-14 Become his woman and you will know. According to some secrets left over from the ancient era, before the great catastrophe of the era begins, the demons will massacre all life in the universe. Now that the demons have appeared in groups, the number of demons will inevitably increase. At that time, these demons are likely to attack the Great Xia Dynasty. This is why Empress Tiannong asked Lu Chen to prepare. Hearing Lu Chen's confident answer, Empress Tiannong immediately thought of the fairy weapon that Lu Chen took out. Indeed, with that fairy weapon, the demons should not have invaded the Great Xia Dynasty. But then again, if the demons appeared directly in the star field ruled by the Great Xia Dynasty, the fairy umbrella seemed to be ineffective. Lu Chen continued, my main body is already preparing to convene the Great Xia Cultivator Conference. At that time, I will let the War Dragon Army increase the inspection of the major star fields of the Great Xia Dynasty. Seeing that Lu Chen was already preparing, Empress Tiannong said no more, and then she was ready to return to her own practice palace. But just as she was about to leave, Lai Hongyun beside her suddenly asked, how did you do that? Obviously, this question was asked to Empress Tiannong. Empress Tiannong turned her head slightly, glanced at Lai Hongyun coldly with the corner of her eyes, and left a sentence, become his woman, you will know. After saying this, Empress Tiannong used space teleportation to leave Xuanyang Star region. After Empress Tiannong left, only Lu Chen and Lai Hongyun were left in the void. Lai Hongyun looked back at Lu Chen, wanting to say something but stopping. She wanted to ask the same question again, but Empress Tiannong had already given the answer. If she wanted to know how she solved the demon so easily, she only needed to become Lu Chen's woman. At this point, she still rejected relying on men to become stronger, but the marriage line between the two of them was tied together, and she seemed to have no better way except to compromise. After thinking about it, Lai Hongyun finally took the initiative to say to Lu Chen, I can be your woman, but I want to know why she can destroy those demons so easily. The catastrophe is coming, and there are more and more demons in this universe. According to historical records, before each era catastrophe, many emperors died under the siege of demons. If she can get a way to deal with the demons, she can ensure that she can survive until the catastrophe comes. She doesn't want to survive until the catastrophe comes, but she doesn't die in the era catastrophe, but becomes the food of those demons. For most cultivators, they would rather explode themselves than become the food of demons. Hearing Lai Hongyun's request, Lu Chen just smiled faintly, even if you don't take the initiative to ask, I will tell you how she did it. As long as she is my woman, I will tell her how to deal with the demons. Facing Lu Chen's words, Lai Hongyun felt a little complicated. She didn't expect that one day she would do something like exchanging her body for benefits. You have to know that she followed the ruthless path in her previous life. A great emperor who followed the ruthless path would actually practice dual cultivation with a man after reincarnation, which completely subverted her previous life's path. Fortunately, she did not practice the ruthless path in this life, otherwise she might have collapsed at this time. Lu Chen continued, "Since you have agreed, then follow me to the Tianqian world." As soon as the voice fell, Lu Chen used the space transfer technique to bring Lai Hongyun to the Tianqian world. As soon as Lai Hongyun entered the Tianqian world, he felt the rich spiritual energy rushing into his body crazily. After feeling the spiritual energy concentration far exceeding that of the main star of Yunhua Palace, Lai Hongyun was shocked again. Tianqian world is just an inconspicuous world in the chaotic star sea, and its location is also at the edge of the universe. It is absolutely impossible to have such a rich spiritual energy. Lai Hongyun looked at Lu Chen. "Where is this place?" Lu Chen replied, "This is the Tianqian world." Lai Hongyun immediately said, "Impossible." Although she had not come to the Tianqian world was very close to the Lian world where she was originally. The Lian world was still a world with relatively rich spiritual energy in the chaos star sea, but it was not as rich as this world. How could this be the Tianqian world? Seeing that Lai Hongyun could not believe it, Lu Chen smiled and said, "The Lian world has merged with the Tianqian world." At that time, the major forces of the Lian world also merged into the Tianqian world. You can go and ask them where this place is. Lai Hongyun fell into silence, her eyes fixed on the huge world tree in the distance. If what Lu Chen said was true, it would prove that Lu Chen's previous life was probably not just as simple as the Great Emperor. Being able to turn a life world in a marginal star field into a Holy Land level existence, Lu Chen's means were really terrifying. Lu Chen said, "You should get familiar with the Tianqian world first. When you are ready, come to the palace to find me." Lu Chen knew that Lai Hongyun still had some repulsion in her heart. After all, she was an empress in her previous life. It was normal that she could not accept being criticized for a while. The emperor also had to save face. It took him a long time to take down the Tiannong Empress. To this day, the Tiannong Empress has not completely accepted him and still has some small emotions. Lu Chen was not in a hurry. Anyway, there was still a lot of time. After Lu Chen's voice fell, his body disappeared on the spot, leaving Lai Hongyun alone in the sky. Lai Hongyun was suspended in the sky, staring at the Tianqian world. I don't know what she was thinking. After a long time, she gradually came back to her senses. Then she looked for the forces that had once existed in the flame world, and soon she found a force that was close to her. After arriving at that force, she learned from the people in that force how the Great Xia Dynasty had developed from a dynasty to its current state step by step. After learning about the entire development history of the Great Xia Dynasty, Lai Hongyun became more curious about Lu Chen's identity in his previous life. At the same time, Yunhua Palace. In the Palace Master's Hall. The Dusheng Empress was in full force, and the emperors in the hall all felt this huge pressure. As emperors, they were still suffocated by this pressure. In the middle of the hall, Emperor Yanyu lowered his head, and beads of sweat covered his wrinkled skin. Emperor Yanyu was afraid of being held accountable by the Dusheng Empress, so he wanted to rely on himself to rescue Lai Hongyun. As a result, she tried her best outside the Great Xia Dynasty, but she couldn't break the barrier that protected the Great Xia Dynasty. Just when she was about to try again, she found that a large number of demons appeared on the outskirts of the Great Xia Dynasty. Although she was an emperor, she had no problem dealing with ordinary demons. But the sudden appearance of so many demons meant that the demon disaster before the epical catastrophe had begun, and it was very likely that a particularly powerful demon had appeared near the Great Xia Dynasty. Considering his own safety, Emperor Yanyu still asked his clone to report the affairs of the Great Xia Dynasty to Empress Dusheng. Empress Dusheng happened to hold a meeting of hall masters at this time. After hearing that Lai Hongyun was captured, Empress Dusheng was furious. Lai Hongyun was already the most suitable body for her to possess, except for Lu Qingyan, and now even Lai Hongyun was captured. If she did not find a suitable body to possess before the epical catastrophe came, she might not be able to survive the epical catastrophe. After a long while, Empress Dusheng asked coldly, "Who did it?" Chapter 11:15 Your Majesty, the fifth prince has broken through to the Saint Realm. Emperor Yanyu quickly replied, "It's the Great Xia Dynasty." Empress Dusheng sneered, "A dynasty that I have never heard of can actually capture people from you, and you can't do anything about that dynasty." Emperor Yanyu said in a panic, "Please forgive me, Palace Master. That dynasty seems to be protected by a powerful formation. I have tried my best, but I can't break that formation." Emperor Xuanming added insult to injury and said, "Yanyu, incompetence is incompetence, why are you still looking for excuses here?" Hearing this, Emperor Yanyu was about to refute, but when he thought that he had failed to protect the saint, if he said anything at this time, it might make Empress Dusheng even more angry, so Emperor Yanyu had to endure it. Empress Dusheng did not get even more angry because of Emperor Xuanming's provocation. She asked with a serious face, "Oh, even you can't break the formation of that dynasty with your full strength?" Emperor Yanyu is at least a 5th-level emperor. Although she is not the strongest emperor in this universe, her strength can also be ranked in the middle echelon. For the emperors of the dynasties on the edge of the universe, Emperor Yanyu should be able to easily crush them. Now a formation suddenly appeared, which can even resist Emperor Yanyu's full-strength attack, which is enough to show how strong the defense strength of this formation is. Even Emperor Yanyu can't break this formation, what about those demons? Is it possible that they can't break it? Now that the disaster of demons has come, the number of demons will increase in the future. In order to deal with those demons, Yunhua Palace will spend a lot of time and energy in the future. If a formation with strength that can resist demons can be found, then Yunhua Palace will be able to focus more on dealing with the epical catastrophe. Seeing that the anger of Empress Dusheng seemed to have subsided a lot, Emperor Yanyu hurriedly said, "Yes, Palace Master, I have tried all the means, but still did not cause any damage to the formation." Empress Dusheng showed a thoughtful expression, "Interesting." Then Empress Dusheng said, "Tell me the coordinates." Emperor Yanyu did not hesitate at all, and directly used his spiritual sense to pass the coordinates of the Great Xia Dynasty to Empress Dusheng. A ball of golden light flew out from Emperor Yanyu's forehead and flew in front of Empress Dusheng. Empress Dusheng grabbed the ball of golden light and determined the location of the Great Xia Dynasty. Empress Dusheng did not hesitate at all and directly split out a clone, and then her clone went to the Great Xia Dynasty. After Empress Dusheng came back to her senses, she looked at Emperor Yanyu and continued, "Transmit your memories of this period to me. When you reach the level of the Emperor, you can turn a period of memory into an inherited memory and share this memory with others." Empress Dusheng did not think that Emperor Yanyu was lying. She was just curious about what kind of power the Great Xia Dynasty was that dared to attack Yunhua Palace. Emperor Yanyu did not hesitate and directly copied a copy of her memory in the Great Xia Dynasty, and then sent this memory to Empress Dusheng in the form of an inheritance light ball. Empress Dusheng sensed Emperor Yanyu's memory, and when she saw that the other party actually called himself the Emperor of Heaven, her brows knitted instantly. Her first reaction was the same as Emperor Yanyu's. The lord of a dynasty on the edge of the universe was so arrogant that he dared to call himself the Emperor of Heaven. What gave this man the courage? However, when Empress Dusheng saw that Emperor Yanyu tried his best but could not break the so-called formation of the Great Xia Dynasty, she seemed to understand why the other party dared to call himself the Emperor of Heaven. A great emperor of the 5th level of the Great Emperor did not even shake the formation, which was enough to show how solid the formation was. Empress Dusheng thought to herself that perhaps this formation could really resist the demons. After thinking of this possibility, Empress Dusheng asked her clone to speed up to the Great Xia Dynasty. Empress Dusheng came back to her senses at this time. She put away the pressure on her body and glanced at the emperors present. Let's put aside the matter of the saint first. The most urgent thing is how to prevent the invasion of the demons. Although she was very unhappy that her body was captured, it was not the time to entangle this. Today, demons appear in various parts of the universe, and even a large number of demons have appeared in the star field ruled by Yunhua Palace. The demons that appear now are only demons of relatively low realms. Yunhua Palace does not need to take action, and those affiliated forces of Yunhua Palace can solve them. However, according to historical records, as the era catastrophe approaches, the realm of the demons that appear will become higher and higher. Yunhua Palace must be prepared to deal with high-level demons. Seeing that Empress Dusheng changed the subject, Emperor Yanyu breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the matter of the demon appeared at this time, otherwise she would definitely be punished. Afterwards, the palace masters offered their opinions and suggestions, all of which focused on preventing the demons. Yunhua Palace was discussing how to prevent the demons, and other superpowers were also discussing how to deal with the demons, including the Shenyu Dynasty. Shenyu Dynasty. After a heated discussion, Emperor Shenwu decided to temporarily stop external expansion and prepare to deal with the demons first. At this moment, the palace in the sky. Emperor Shenwu looked up at the void, his expression seemed a little solemn. The appearance of the demon made him feel something was wrong. According to some historical records left over from the ancient era, the demon should not appear so soon. The difference between the appearance of the demon and the great catastrophe of the era will not exceed 500 years. Didn't Tianji Nu's prophecy say that the great catastrophe of the era is about 10,000 years away? Why did the demon appear so soon? Is it possible that the great catastrophe of the era has been brought forward again? Or is there any difference between this era and the ancient era, which caused the demon to appear in advance? Facing the demon, even if the Shenwu Emperor is the emperor with the power to kill, he will still find it difficult. As time goes by, the strength of the demon will become stronger and stronger. If there are still 10,000 years before the great catastrophe arrives, then the strength of the demon that appears later will be terrifying. This gave Emperor Shenwu a sense of urgency in his heart. No, he must quickly complete the body seizure. Just when Emperor Shenwu was about to sense the cultivation status of those princes, a shadow guard appeared behind Emperor Shenwu. Your Majesty, the Fifth Highness has broken through to the Saint Realm. Upon hearing this, Emperor Shenwu didn't hesitate at all, and immediately used the power of his blood to sense it. With this induction, the gloom on Emperor Shenwu's face was instantly wiped away. Finally, a prince has broken through to the realm of a saint, and it seems that his plan can begin. Then Emperor Shenwu said, the edict is proposed. The fifth prince has both political integrity and talent, and is extremely talented. From now on, he will be canonized as the crown prince of the Shenyu Dynasty. 3 days later, the canonization hall will be held. One stone stirred up 1,000 waves, and the news that Lu Yangwe had broken through to the Saint Realm quickly spread throughout the Shenyu Dynasty, and also reached the ears of many superpowers. The major superpowers are not very interested in this matter. After all, they only canonize a prince. Maybe the great catastrophe of the era has already arrived before the Prince Lu Yangwe ascends the throne. However, the forces within the Shenyu Dynasty were very concerned about the position of the prince. The emperors of the Shenyu Dynasty knew that in order to cope with the great catastrophe of the era, Emperor Shenwu was about to retreat and try to reach a higher realm. Chapter 11:16. He is just a dying man, what is there to congratulate him for? Once Emperor Shenwu retreats into seclusion, the entire Shenyu Dynasty will be decided by Prince Lu Yangwe. Now that the demon is raging, those forces that have a good relationship with the prince do not have to deal with the demon, but those forces that have a bad relationship with the prince will inevitably be sent by the prince to resist the invasion of the demon. At this time, it is extremely important to stand in line. After hearing that Lu Yangwe was canonized as the prince, many emperors came to congratulate Lu Yangwe. Even the emperors who were originally from other prince factions also went. People knew very well that if there were no surprises, Lu Yangwe's position as prince was basically stable, and the battle for the position of the head of the dynasty was over. So if we continue to dominate other princes at this time, then when Lu Yangwe supervises the country, I am afraid that the dirty work will be arranged for them. Shenyu Dynasty, East Palace. After Lu Yangwe received the imperial edict, he immediately moved into the East Palace. The East Palace is located on the left side of the Xia Dynasty Palace and is half the size of the palace. In the East Palace, the ground is made of top-grade spiritual stone as the floor, and fairy gold is used as the building material of the house, which is very luxurious. At this time, the square of the East Palace was very lively, and several emperors were there. They all brought gifts to make friends with Lu Yonghua. Seeing so many great emperors coming to the East Palace, Lu Yonghua's inner vanity swelled to the extreme. He finally came to the place he had dreamed of. At this time, Emperor Thunder walked up to Lu Yonghua with an exquisite box and said flatteringly, "Congratulations to the prince on his sainthood. A small prophet is not disrespectful." Seeing Emperor Thunder, Lu Yonghua said with a smile, "Emperor Thunder, I remember that you are on good terms with your ninth brother. If he knew that you came to the East Palace today, what would he think? Aren't you afraid that he would be dissatisfied?" The Thunder Emperor said with a smile on his face, "Prince, what are you talking about? You are the prince and will be the head of the dynasty from now on. As a minister, I should naturally come to congratulate His Highness. As for Lu Chen, he is just a traitor to the Xia Dynasty." Having said this, the Thunder Emperor sighed deeply and continued with a sad expression, "Oh, I was so blind back then that I got so close to this traitor." Hearing the words of the Thunder Emperor, Lu Yonghua felt very comfortable in his heart. Back then, Lu Chen had been suppressing him. Why were all the talented cultivators better than him? Lu Chen also had a large number of talented people gathered around him. Now Lu Chen has nothing, and has become a traitor to the Xia Dynasty. Lu Yonghua wanted to laugh loudly when he thought of this. After all, he got everything. No matter how high your talent and cultivation level are, you still have to become a lost dog. After Emperor Thunder congratulated him, the other emperors came together and said some respectful words in front of Lu Yonghua. At this time, the Thunder Emperor stepped aside, and the flattery on his face had dissipated and turned into a serious expression. The moment he entered the East Palace, he felt a familiar force of yin and yang, which immediately reminded him of the emperors who assassinated Chu Yunji in the palace. Although he had guessed that there might be some relationship between Lu Yonghua and those emperors, Emperor Thunder had no intention of reporting to Emperor Shenwu. Those emperors used the power of yin and yang, which was related to Tianji Tower. Now that Tianji Tower and Xia Dynasty are allies, this kind of thing may affect the cooperation between the two forces. Moreover, Emperor Thunder believes that Emperor Shenwu has noticed several emperors around Lu Yonghua. This is the imperial capital, and with Emperor Shenwu's perception, it is impossible for him to not sense them at all. But for some reason, Emperor Thunder always felt that something big was going to happen next. The canonization of the Crown Prince might not be the end, but the beginning of something. At the same time, Guiyizhou, on the vast continent, there are countless tall towers built with large stones. The stone walls of the towers are carved with some murals of unknown meaning. On the top floor of a certain stone tower, two old men sat face to face on the ground, with a game of Go in front of them. At this time, the old man on the left said, "Master Gai, don't you plan to congratulate the prince?" Hearing this, the old man known as the leader smiled faintly, and then said, "He is just a dying person, what is there to congratulate?" Having said this, the leader of the Gai sect picked up a chess piece between his fingers and placed it on the chessboard. The next moment, the entire chessboard emitted a dazzling light, and then, the projection of Tianjin World appeared on the chessboard. The leader of Gai sect continued, "Now that the saint has overcome the disaster, it is time for us to go to Tianjin World." After hearing this, the old man opposite the leader of Gai cult said, "The mission of Gai cult has been completed. In this case, why continue to follow that woman?" The leader of Gai cult said calmly, "She single-handedly founded Gai cult in her previous life. Without her, there would be no Gai cult today. Gai cult will always be her Gai cult." Hearing this, the old man chuckled, "You are really stubborn. But I'm curious as to why she chose Lu Chen. Did they have a marriage in their previous life?" The leader of Gai said, "Who knows this? This is her own business. Okay, that's it for today. It's time for you to leave. If you continue to stay, I'm afraid you will be discovered by Emperor Shenwu." As soon as the words fell, the chessboard in front of the two disappeared. The leader of the Gai sect stood up and waved his embroidered robe. The next moment, his body disappeared on the spot, leaving only the old man who had just played chess with him still sitting there. After a while, the old man also slowly stood up. He looked at the stone tower in the distance and said with a smile, "It's a bit interesting." The old man was the lord of the Holy Land of Nirvana, the top power in the universe. He originally planned to win over the Gai sect and let the Gai sect join the Nirvana Holy Land. Unexpectedly, the Gai sect finally chose an abandoned prince. The Gai sect looks like an ordinary force, but only Emperor Jinyan knows very well that the Gai sect existed in the universe at the beginning of this era. This sect has a longer history than many holy places. The Gai sect just behaves in a low-key manner. I am afraid no one knows the true strength of the Gai sect. Emperor Jinyan had been paying attention to every move of Gai sect. When Gai sect sent their saint to Shenyu Palace, he once suspected that Gai sect was not as powerful as he imagined, or that Gai sect had weakened. After all, that was their saint. If they really had a strong person, they would not send the saint away. It was not until just now that Emperor Jinyan faced the leader of Gai sect that he realized that his previous guess was wrong. The pressure brought to him by the leader of Gai sect was no less than that of the ancestors of the top holy places. Even Emperor Shenwu was unlikely to be the opponent of the leader of Gai sect. Perhaps, the leader of Gai sect was planning something when he handed over the saint. Thinking of this, Emperor Jinyan planned to have people pay more attention to the situation of the Great Xia Dynasty after returning. Emperor Jinyan had obtained a memory of the inheritance of the elder of Gai sect. He learned from the memory of the elder that the saint of Gai sect was not an ordinary person. She was probably the reincarnation of the empress who created Gai sect. How could someone of such a noble status choose a prince abandoned by Emperor Shenwu? Perhaps, Lu Chen was not simple either. Chapter 11-17 Chu Yunji and Amp, #039, S worry. As the chaos in the universe intensified, Lu Chen also became busy. After seeing the demons appearing on a large scale, Lu Chen's first thought was that the immortal umbrella could even withstand the attacks of the Emperor of Heaven. If that was the case, he would continue to huddle under the protection of the immortal umbrella and work hard to help his wives and concubines practice until that's it when the great catastrophe of the era comes. But this idea was quickly thrown away by Lu Chen. On the one hand, he was not sure if there was any woman in the universe who met the system's conditions. If he had stayed in the Great Xia Dynasty, even if there were women who met the system's conditions, may not be found. Although the red sedan will bring some women who meet the conditions to him from time to time, he has no control over the red sedan. No one can say whether the red sedan will bring him women who meet the system's requirements in the future. Waiting like this seems a bit passive. And based on the memories in the Samsara stone, it can be inferred that those women who meet the system's conditions are most likely to be his Taoist companions from countless previous lives. His past lives, the lives before, and the lives before, were all looking for those Taoist companions from his previous lives scattered throughout the universe before the great catastrophe of the era came. In this life, with the help of the system, he has found so many women from his previous life. It can be said that this is the closest to a happy reunion, so he might as well find all the women who may have a close relationship with him in one step. Perhaps after finding all those women, the mystery of his life experience will be completely solved, and the origin of the system of many children and many blessings may also be known to him. Don't continue nesting dolls in this life. If he hasn't found his Taoist companions from his previous life in this life, they might be separated again in the next era, and then he will fall into the reincarnation of searching for his Taoist companions from his previous life. Tianqian World, Yancheng Imperial Palace. In the dead of night, on top of the tallest building in the palace, Lu Chen's main body was sitting on the rooftop, looking at the stars in the sky, drinking a small drink, and beside him were two beauties, Lu Qingyan and Chu Yunji. During this period of time, Lu Chen's main body's energy has been focused on the two women. The main body has now reached the 4th level of the Great Emperor, and its combat power is stronger than all the clones. For relatively arrogant women like Lu Qingyan and Chu Yunji, it is natural to first use the main body to completely subdue them. At this time, Chu Yunji asked, "Your Majesty is not planning to expand externally. Now that demons are raging and many dynasties have suffered heavy losses, it may be the time for the Great Xia Dynasty to expand externally." During this period of time, Chu Yunji found that there seemed to be very few major movements in the Great Xia Dynasty. The focus of the imperial court was basically on dealing with the demons, and there was no rumor of external expansion at all. Hearing Chu Yunji's words, Lu Chen smiled faintly, put down the wine glass in his hand, turned to look at Chu Yunji and said, "Why do you suddenly care about this?" Chu Yunji has been entangled with him every day for this period of time. In addition to the matters between men and women, there are also matters between men and women. She has never told him anything other than dual cultivation. Today, the Great Xia Dynasty's external expansion was suddenly mentioned, which surprised Lu Chen. Chu Yunji said, "With the demons appearing on a large scale so early, the catastrophe is likely to be advanced again. If the Great Xia Dynasty does not accumulate enough luck before the epic catastrophe arrives, it is likely that it will not be able to survive the epic catastrophe." Quote, "After all, Chu Yunji is also a saint of the Gai sect. Even if she has not recovered the memory of her previous life, she still has a certain understanding of the Great Tribulation of the era. According to some historical records left over from the ancient era, demons will appear on a large scale only when the catastrophe of the era is about to begin. Tianji predicted that the great catastrophe of the era would inevitably come within 10,000 years. This statement within 10,000 years is very intriguing. If a great catastrophe occurs within 5,000 years, it will also occur within 10,000 years. If it occurs within 1,000 years, it will also occur within 10,000 years. If it occurs within 500 years, it will also occur within 10,000 years. 10,000 years is the deadline for the catastrophe to occur, but no one can say when the epical catastrophe will occur." After hearing Chu Yunji's words, Lu Chen poured himself a glass of wine again, then looked at the boundless starry sky and said, "You are right, but we don't need to be too anxious for the time being. Expansion is going to happen, but it's not yet time. Let's wait until the universe becomes more chaotic. And you don't have to worry. The appearance of the demon does not necessarily mean that the catastrophe has been advanced again." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lu Qingyan on the side asked curiously, "Why do you say that?" According to the records left over from the ancient era, as soon as the demon appears, the great catastrophe of the era will soon follow. Anyone who knows a little bit about the ancient era knows this. Lu Chen picked up the wine glass in front of him, took a sip of wine, and then replied, "This is just my guess, and it may not be correct. The heavenly demons feed on despair and fear. The more chaotic the universe is, the more suitable it is for the heavenly demons to survive. Before every catastrophe, the universe will fall into chaos, which causes the number of heavenly demons to skyrocket." Tianji predicted the great catastrophe of the era in advance, causing the universe to enter a state of chaos in advance. This provided the soil for the demons to survive, which is why the demons appeared on a large scale so quickly. After hearing Lu Chen's guess, Chu Yunji and Lu Qingyan thought for a while and felt that it made sense. However, after all, this was just a guess and had not been verified. At this time, Lu Chen put down his wine glass and was surrounded by green spiritual energy. Then he used the method of creation to create a dozen clones of the Return to Ruins realm. Seeing so many clones suddenly appearing on the rooftop, the two women were stunned for a moment, feeling a little uneasy in their hearts. Will Lu Chen play the sandwich game again? Just when the two women were worried, Lu Chen sent out all the dozen clones. After seeing these clones disappear, the two women breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Chen said, "Speaking of which, we should pay more attention to the situation in the universe." Hearing Lu Chen's words, the two women realized that Lu Chen had created so many clones just now in order to find out the situation of other forces in the universe. At this moment, Chu Yunji's brain suddenly froze, and the Dao rhyme on her body could not help but be released, and circles of Dao patterns spun around Chu Yunji's body. After sensing the abnormality of Chu Yunji's body, Lu Chen immediately asked, "What's wrong?" Chu Yunji did not answer immediately. She raised her jade hand and supported her forehead. The whole person was in a trance. Lu Chen hurriedly infused Chu Yunji with life force, but Chu Yunji's symptoms still did not ease. After a while, Chu Yunji suddenly raised her head. At this time, Chu Yunji's starry eyes were shining, her face was flushed, and the whole person exuded the smell of a mature woman. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen wondered, could it be that she was about to break through? Chu Yunji's avenue is the avenue of love. Every time she breaks through, she needs Lu Chen to assist her. Seeing her like this, Lu Chen's first thought was that she was about to break through. The next moment, Chu Yunji raised her slender jade arms, hugged Lu Chen's neck, and lay in Lu Chen's arms, showing a look of seeking love. Chapter 11:18 Chu Yunji recovers her past life memories. Seeing Chu Yunji's uncomfortable look, Lu Chen didn't hesitate at all and directly used the sky as a quilt and the rooftop as a bed to help Chu Yunji relieve the pain. Lu Qingyan on the side curled her lips slightly when she saw Lu Chen doing something, but didn't say much. When she was brought back by Lu Chen, she had already accepted the reality that she could not possess Lu Chen alone, and she had never had such an idea. Moreover, not everyone can bear the love of Lu Chen's main body. She has been practicing with Lu Chen's main body recently, and she thought she was going to die several times. Although she didn't care about the dual cultivation of Lu Chen and that woman, Lu Qingyan had a strange feeling in her heart when she saw Lu Chen committing murder in front of her. I can't tell what this feeling is, it's a bit like schadenfreude. At this time, Chu Yunji's Taoist charm became stronger and stronger. Under the influence of this Taoist charm, even Lu Qingyan began to lose control of herself. Lu Qingyan was a little speechless. She was watching the show here, so why was she even affected by it? Lu Qingyan quickly circulated the spiritual power in her body, trying to stabilize her mind, but found that as the spiritual power circulated, the spiritual power in her body became more chaotic, and the throbbing of her soul became more obvious. Lu Qingyan glanced coldly at Lu Chen and Chu Yunji who were working. Hateful, this couple of bitches, even if they are swallowed up by desire, they still want to drag themselves into the water. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Just when Lu Qingyan was thinking about grabbing Lu Chen, Chu Yunji's spiritual power was suddenly released, and a halo of light enveloped both Chu Yunji and Lu Chen. Immediately afterwards, countless pictures appeared in front of their eyes, and these pictures were playing quickly like a slideshow. When Lu Qingyan on the side saw this scene, she thought of what happened to her, and a guess suddenly arose in her heart. Is it possible that Chu Yunji had something to do with Lu Chen in his previous life? Is her past life memory about to awaken? Just when Lu Qingyan was thinking this, Chu Yunji opened her hazy eyes, and her originally blurred eyes became tender and watery. Looking at the man on her body, Chu Yunji's eyes flashed with tenderness. She raised her jade hand and gently stroked Lu Chen's black hair. Lu Chen, who was moving, noticed Chu Yunji's change and immediately stopped and looked into Chu Yunji's eyes. At this time, there was no desire in Chu Yunji's eyes, but only the tenderness of his lover. Seeing Chu Yunji's appearance, Lu Chen couldn't bear to strengthen her. Lu Chen asked curiously, "What's wrong?" After he finished speaking, Lu Chen deliberately sensed Chu Yunji's realm, and found that Chu Yunji was still at the first level of the Great Emperor, and his realm had not improved. If your realm has not improved, why did you make such a big noise just now? This confused Lu Chen. Chu Yunji said with a smile, "I awakened the memory of my past life." Hearing this, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. Awakening past life memories, is it really what he thought? As long as any woman who meets the system's requirements has had an ambiguous relationship with him in her previous life. After Lu Chen came to his senses, he smiled and asked, "What was our relationship in the previous life?" Chu Yunji glanced at Lu Chen faintly and said, "You know what you're asking." She believed that Lu Chen must have recovered some memories, and she must know that they were Taoist couples in their previous lives. To be precise, they were their previous lives. In order to find Lu Chen again, she has gone through countless reincarnations. Seeing the two of them looking at each other affectionately, Lu Qingyan on the side felt bored and panicked. She suddenly interrupted and coldly asked Chu Yunji, "Yunji, have you seen me in your previous life?" Lu Qingyan also suspected that she and Lu Chen were Taoist lovers in her previous life, so she was beaten to death by Lu Chen in this life. After hearing Lu Qingyan's voice, Lu Chen and Chu Yunji realized that there was someone watching next to them. Chu Yunji turned to look at Lu Qingyan at this time. "No. But this is normal. Lu Chen has been reincarnated countless times. Maybe you were also his Taoist companion in one of your lives." Speaking of this, Chu Yunji continued with a hint of jealousy in his tone. "In the life he was with me, he was constantly looking for the Taoist monks in his previous life. How many Taoisms did he have in his reincarnations? Friend, I'm afraid even he himself doesn't know." This. Lu Chen didn't expect that Chu Yunji even knew such a thing. It seemed that during the life that Chu Yunji was with him, he had unlocked most of the memories of the Samsara Stone, and he also told Chu Yunji about the Samsara Stone. "Yunji." Lu Chen coughed at this time, then changed the subject and asked, "By the way, Yunji, why did your past life memory suddenly revive at this time?" Chu Yunji said, "Someone activated the inheritance stone I left behind in the Gai sect." Lu Chen asked in confusion, "Inheritance stone? What is that?" Chu Yunji replied, "My memory is sealed in the inheritance stone. As long as someone actively activates it, I can restore my memory. But there are too many memories in the inheritance stone, and there are also some causes and effects involved. Before my cultivation reaches the level of the Great Emperor, I cannot bear those causes and effects. After I founded the Gai sect in my previous life, when I reincarnated, I sealed up all my reincarnation memories and karma." Chu Yunji didn't just reincarnate once, she had been reincarnated countless times and experienced countless eras. She has a lot of reincarnation memories and causes and effects. If she inherits those memories and causes and effects before her cultivation reaches the level of the Great Emperor, her consciousness in this life will likely be overwhelmed by those memories and turn her into a madman. When a person reincarnates too many times, it is difficult to deal with the memories of the previous life, because the memories of the previous life are like another personality. If there is no certain strength and the conflict brought by the two memories cannot be balanced, then the person is likely to go crazy or have schizophrenia. Chu Yunji has reincarnated so many times, and she has so many memories sealed together. If she unlocks those memories before she reaches the level of the Great Emperor, she will be driven crazy by those memories. This is also why many reincarnated Great Emperors will seal their memories and wait until their strength reaches a certain level before slowly unlocking them. Now Chu Yunji has the cultivation level of the Great Emperor. In her eyes, the memories of the previous life are played back like slides, and then quickly merge together, and there will be no schizophrenia. Hearing Chu Yunji's words, Lu Chen was a little surprised. It was the first time he heard that the cause and effect could be sealed. Chu Yunji was able to do this in her previous life, which proves that she was very powerful at that time. If so, why did she reincarnate? Lu Chen asked puzzledly. "You should have been in this universe in your previous life, why did you suddenly seal your memory and cause and effect and choose to reincarnate?" Chu Yunji replied, "I survived from the ancient era in my previous life. The deadline has come. If I don't take the initiative to reincarnate, I will soon be annihilated." Chu Yunji's situation is similar to Lu Chen. After Lu Chen came to the new era, he was still in the realm of the Emperor of Heaven, but because of the deadline, he had to choose to reincarnate and finally became the son of the Emperor of Shenwu. Many rules of the ancient era and the new era are not universal. If the body of the ancient era is not reshaped, even if it survives the era catastrophe, it is likely to fall in the new era. End of this chapter. Chapter 11:19 The punishment must be punished. No matter who has lived from the ancient era to the new era, the first thing to do when arriving in the new era is to reincarnate, so that they can be recognized by the cosmic laws of the new era. Even the Emperor of Heaven is the same. This can also explain why Lu Chen has lived for so many lives, but has never been able to break all the memories of the reincarnation stone and find his Taoist companions in his previous life. Every time Lu Chen lives in a new era, he must reincarnate. As a result, as soon as he reincarnates, the memories of his previous life are sealed in the reincarnation stone, and his strength and cultivation are all gone. When Lu Chen's strength and cultivation are restored to be able to carry the memories sealed by the reincarnation stone, the new era of catastrophe comes again. Lu Chen reincarnates repeatedly, and he has never been able to find his Taoist companions in his previous life, nor can he find his own memories. Instead, the sealed memories are increasing, and the number of Taoist companions is increasing, which forms a vicious cycle. Lu Chen pondered for a while. After listening to Chu Yunji's reason for reincarnation, he seemed to understand why he would continue to reincarnate like this. Thinking in this way, perhaps this life is really the one that is closest to finding his Taoist partner in his previous life, and it is also the one that is closest to unlocking all the seals of the Samsara stone. At this time, Lu Qingyan on the side was also thinking whether she had also sealed some memories. She had known for a long time that she was a reincarnated body, and she even knew that she would definitely be able to escape the epic catastrophe. But her memory of her previous life was not clear. After hearing what Chu Yunji said, she felt that she was probably worried that she could not bear the memory and cause and effect of her previous life, so she sealed the memory and cause and effect when she reincarnated, leaving only a part of the memory. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Maybe when she recovers all her memories, she will know whether she had any relationship with Lu Chen in her previous life. But then again, even if she was really Lu Chen's Taoist partner in her previous life, Lu Chen's way of doing things in this life was too rough. She was a saint in Yunhua Palace, but her clone was imprisoned by Lu Chen and played with every day. Her main body was finally lured to the Great Xia Dynasty by the red sedan chair, and finally her main body was played with by Lu Chen in the red sedan chair. When she thought of what Lu Chen did, Lu Qingyan's evaluation of Lu Chen in her heart was only bad. But all this is over. Although Lu Chen's means are a bit dishonorable, if it is to renew the previous relationship, she can barely accept it, and she is very happy now. Those unbearable things don't seem to be so important. At this time, Chu Yunji's jade hand continued to stroke Lu Chen's hair, and gradually slid down along Lu Chen's ears, stroking Lu Chen's cheek. After experiencing countless reincarnations, Chu Yunji finally saw her beloved again, which made Chu Yunji's heart unable to calm down for a long time. In order to find Lu Chen, she tried hard to survive every era of catastrophe, fearing that she would never see Lu Chen again after her death. After feeling Chu Yunji's warm jade palm, Lu Chen came back to his senses and asked, "Yunji, did I tell you about the Samsara stone in the life I was with you?" Chu Yunji thought for a moment and then replied, "Yes." Lu Chen continued to ask, "How many Taoist companions were there around me in that life?" Hearing this question, Chu Yunji looked at Lu Chen with resentment. "I was the only one in that life." Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. The life he was with Chu Yunji should be considered an earlier life. The earlier the reincarnation, the more seals of the Samsara stone he had unlocked. As a result, he only had Chu Yunji as a woman at that time. It seems that he has never found his own Taoist companions in so many reincarnations. Of course, there is another possibility. Maybe the life he was with Chu Yunji was too early, and he didn't have many Taoist companions at that time. As he continued to reincarnate, his Taoist companions increased. Seeing Lu Chen's handsome face, Chu Yunji's thoughts also returned to the time when she was with Lu Chen in her previous life. In that life, Lu Chen was still a handsome young man, and he didn't have such strong desires. Although the two of them often practiced dual cultivation, it was not as exaggerated as in this life. I don't know why Lu Chen in this life has become like this. Speaking of which, when Lu Chen was the son of the Emperor Shenwu in his previous life, he also focused on cultivation. Thinking of this, Chu Yunji was stunned. Could it be that it was really the problem of the Tianyan stone? She used the Tianyan stone to control Lu Chen's fate and made Lu Chen indulge in love, so this led to Lu Chen's personality change and became what he is now. Just as Chu Yunji was staring at Lu Chen's face and lost her mind, Lu Chen asked, "What way did I practice in the life when I was with you?" Chu Yunji replied, "Kendo." Lu Chen thought to himself that the way of sword is too different from the way of creation. The way of creation is the origin of all ways, and the way of sword is just a road evolved from the way of creation. If you only practice swordsmanship, then the results of your practice will naturally be limited. Lu Chen pondered for a while and felt that it didn't seem to make much sense to think about these things now. He should let his clone patrol the entire universe as soon as possible to see if there are more women with full 90 points. Lu Chen came back to his senses and stared at Chu Yunji. Being stared at by Lu Chen's fiery eyes, Chu Yunji's jade body trembled slightly. When she was with Lu Chen in her previous life, she had never experienced Lu Chen's atrocities in this life. She felt that if she continued like this, she would probably be assimilated by Lu Chen. The key is that she is still practicing the way of love under the influence of Lu Chen in this life. When she thought of this, Chu Yunji felt a little ashamed. She also practiced the way of sword in her previous life. How come she became the way of love in this life? Such an unrighteous way actually exists in the world. The key is that she used it to prove the way and become an emperor. Thinking of this, it seems that not only Lu Chen has changed, but she has also changed. Lu Chen clearly felt that Chu Yunji's body temperature was rising rapidly at this time. Lu Chen could no longer bear it and continued to increase Chu Yunji's strength. Humph, even if you recover the memory of your previous life, you can't change the trouble you caused me in this life. You still have to punish me. Seeing that Lu Chen started again, Chu Yunji was a little helpless and could only mobilize the power of the Great Tao to cooperate with Lu Chen in cultivation. I won't shirk responsibility. You can punish me however you want. By the way, there's one more thing. Lu Chen asked curiously. What's the matter? Chu Yunji put his arm around Lu Chen's broad shoulders. Gai sect should be coming to the Great Xia Dynasty, hiss. Hearing this, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. He stopped. Gai sect. They sent you to the Shenyu Palace, and you dared to come to me. Chu Yunji was the saint of Gai sect after all, but Gai sect actually sent its saint to the Shenyu Dynasty. If Chu Yunji's spirit body had not matured yet, he would not have a green hair on his head, and Lu Chen had no good impression of Gai sect. Chu Yunji also saw that Lu Chen had a lot of complaints about Gai sect, and then continued, this can't actually be blamed on Gai sect. End of this chapter. Chapter 11:20 The Fall of the Great Emperor Shenwu. Seeing Chu Yunji speak for Gai sect, Lu Chen moved again and began to get angry. How can it have nothing to do with them? I almost lost you. Chu Yunji frowned and opened her lips slightly. When I reincarnated, I used all my strength to deduce the future. The future shows the Emperor Shenwu has something very important in his hand for you, And, in the depths of my soul, there is a sword embryo that I nurtured together with yours, and once I encounter any danger, it will explode. Lu Chen was stunned again. Sword embryo. If the sword embryo exploded, Chu Yunji's fate would be the destruction of her soul, and she would disappear completely. The sword embryo that Chu Yunji nurtured is similar to the Qingbai lock. From a female perspective, this is not a good thing. Seeing Lu Chen suddenly stop, with complex emotions flashing in his eyes, Chu Yunji continued, I volunteered. Lu Chen sighed and said, alas, now think about it, I am really not a human being. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Lu Qingyan sneered on the side. This guy finally realized that he was not a human being. He was no different from a beast. Lu Chen continued, the thing you deduced in your previous life should be the Tianyan stone. The Tianyan stone fell from the Samsara stone, and the Samsara stone sealed his memory, which is indeed very important to Lu Chen. Lu Chen sighed again and said, forget it, let's not talk about this. If the Gai sect is willing to come, let them come. After the voice fell, Lu Chen continued to do things, but this time he didn't get ruthless again. Feeling that Lu Chen was much gentler, Chu Yunji was a little uncomfortable. If she practiced swordsmanship like in her previous life, she would naturally not care so much about such things. But in this life, she is on the path of love, and Lu Chen's gentleness to her is not a good thing. Chu Yunji then mobilized the power of the Great Tao, and the Tao rhyme of the Tao of love surrounded Lu Chen. Under the influence of this power, Lu Chen's eyes gradually turned red, and the spiritual power in his body ran wild. He urgently needed to expel all the runaway spiritual power. Lu Chen immediately discovered that this was caused by Chu Yunji. He looked at Chu Yunji and asked in confusion, "What are you doing?" Chu Yunji's jade cheeks were deep red, but she just looked at Lu Chen with affection in her eyes, and did not answer. Her reaction at this moment was the best answer. Lu Chen immediately understood what this meant. His eyes became sharp in an instant, and then he snorted coldly and said, "Whether you have a sword embryo in your body or not, you shouldn't take such a risk. I don't allow my woman to have an affair with other men. I still have to punish you." Then Lu Chen increased the strength of Chu Yunji as before. Lu Qingyan looked at the two people speechlessly. She finally relaxed a little just now, but Chu Yunji released her power of the great Tao of love again, which affected her again. She should leave this place of right and wrong as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Lu Qingyan gently stood up and prepared to flee the scene. At this moment, Lu Chen's quasi-emperor clone suddenly appeared in front of her, looking at her with a smile and said, "Yuner, where are you going?" Lu Qingyan's brain was stunned. How could she forget that Lu Chen had more than one body? Lu Qingyan tried to calm down her emotions and pretended to be calm and said, "I won't disturb you from practicing." Lu Chen smiled and said, "What are you talking about? What kind of disturbance is this? Yunji has even released the power of the avenue, which will help us practice. If you leave at this time, wouldn't you let her down?" Under the influence of the power of the avenue of love, the spiritual power in Lu Qingyan's body will become more agitated. In this way, when the two are practicing, the flow of spiritual power will become faster, and the effect of dual cultivation will naturally be better. Of course, the side effect is that Lu Qingyan will not be able to control herself. Lu Qingyan said again, "Qingqiu just said that she is feeling a little uncomfortable. I'll go and see her." At this point, Lu Qingyan was ready to flee the scene, but she was pulled back by Lu Chen after just a few steps. Then Lu Chen pressed her against the fence of the rooftop. "I'm right next to Qingqiu, how can I know if she's comfortable?" Lu Qingyan was dumbfounded. How could she forget this? This bastard has more than one clone. Tier. U. ... A few years passed in a flash. During this period, none of Lu Chen's confidants got pregnant, and Lu Chen even suspected that it was his own problem. Although it is indeed difficult for the emperor to give birth to children, at least some people got pregnant before, including Tiannong Empress and Chu Yukan. Although the child in Tiannong Empress's belly has not been born yet, she is pregnant after all. The other women really didn't make any movement. His main body has not stopped for these years, and he even used the power of the Tao of creation, but it didn't work at all. Shuiyan Star Region, Tianfang World. After the 9th level Lu Chen clone of Guishu Realm came to this star region on the immortal boat, he began to look for women who might meet the system conditions. However, just like in previous years, he has not found a new woman who meets the requirements until now. Even the most beautiful woman he meets can only score 89 points. This made Lu Chen wonder if there were no women with a score of 90 in this universe, or if there were women with a score of 90, the system would take the initiative to send them to the Great Xia Dynasty, and there was no need to look for them himself. Throughout his experience over the years, most of his women came to him on their own. Even if their main bodies did not come to him, their secondary bodies would appear in the Great Xia Dynasty for various reasons. Moreover, the universe is so big and the population is so large that it is like looking for a needle in a haystack to find a woman who meets the system's conditions in the vast sea of people, unless the streets are full of women with a score of 90. But now, it is very likely that women with a score of 90 had some relationship with him in his previous life, and it is unlikely that they are all over the streets. A certain restaurant. Lu Chen's clone wore a stack of bamboo hats and sat by the window, watching the monks coming and going below. He thought to himself that there might be no women with a score of 90 in this universe. According to the nature of the system, if there really were women with a score of 90, they would have been sent to him long ago. Especially the red sedan chair. Although we don't know where it came from, it is likely to be related to the system. Since there are no more women with 90 points, shouldn't he finish it? First, he will destroy Lai Hongyun and Pei Shuhua in the Great Xia Dynasty, and then find a way to take down Yun Shenxian's main body Yun Qingshu. When Lu Chen thought of Yun Qingshu's cold jade face, he felt his blood boiling. Just when Lu Chen was distracted, he heard the discussion of several Guishu realm cultivators. Alas, life is getting harder and harder. The number of demons is increasing, and I don't know what the situation in the outer domain is now. Now you still care about the situation in the outer domain, which is a place only the emperor is qualified to go to. You should care about the changes in the Shenyu dynasty. What happened to the Shenyu dynasty? One person sighed and said, not long ago, it was reported that the Shenwu emperor had problems with his cultivation and died. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. End of this chapter. Chapter 11:21 Lu Yanghua and Amp. #039's counterattack. Lu Chen also felt incredible after hearing the words of the Guishu realm cultivator in purple robes. But Lu Chen soon understood what was going on. How could the Shenwu emperor die so easily? Obviously, the Shenwu emperor has found a body to take over, and it is estimated that he has successfully taken over a certain prince. Just when Lu Chen was thinking this, someone said in surprise, "You dare to call the emperor's name directly, is it possible that he really died?" The emperor cannot be insulted. When someone calls the emperor's name directly, the emperor himself can sense it. For example, if someone scolds Emperor Sha Tian, Lu Chen can instantly sense that someone is scolding him, and can also sense his location. So ordinary cultivators dare not call the living emperor's name directly. If someone dares to say the emperor's name directly, it proves that the emperor has fallen and has no deterrent power. At this time, the cultivator who broke the news of the death of Emperor Shenwu continued, "This news has spread throughout the entire Central Star region, of course it is true." A cultivator said, "Shouldn't this be a good thing? Emperor Shenwu proved his truth through killing. If he wants to become stronger and break through to a higher realm, he must kill more people. This means that Emperor Shenwu will continue to wage wars against the outside world. Wars will bring disasters and fear to ordinary people, which will also make the demons stronger and stronger. The death of Emperor Shenwu is a good thing for the entire universe." Hearing this, the cultivator who broke the news of the death of Emperor Shenwu laughed, then picked up the wine jar on the table and drank it all. If only he died, it would of course be a good thing. But according to the news, the new emperor of the Shenyu dynasty also took the path of killing. On the first day of her accession to the throne, she slaughtered the entire royal family and killed all his brothers and sisters. Hearing this, everyone took a breath of cold air. The man continued, "This is not the most important thing. The key is that he has also practiced a technique called Duoshan Gong. It is said that practicing this technique can plunder luck and fortune through killing. In order to improve his strength as soon as possible, the new lord of the dynasty will definitely launch a war and practice Duoshan Gong while proving his way through killing. It is said that the entire Shenyu dynasty has entered a state of war readiness." Hearing this, one of the cultivators asked puzzledly, "The new lord of the dynasty should be the fifth prince of the Shenyu dynasty. Didn't he break through to the Saint realm a few years ago? Will the emperor of the Shenyu dynasty listen to him?" The cultivator in purple robes said, "I don't know about this, and I don't know what means he used. It is said that the emperors of the Shenyu dynasty now listen to his orders. When the Shenwu emperor fell, there was not even a sign of unrest in the entire Shenyu dynasty." The cultivators fell into silence. If it was really as the purple-robed cultivator said, it meant that the war sweeping the entire universe was really coming. Hearing these people's conversation, Lu Chen also fell into deep thought. The fifth prince was most likely the target of the Shenwu emperor's possession. It was estimated that the Shenwu emperor had succeeded in taking over the body. In order to restore his strength as soon as possible, he had to launch a foreign war. When Lu Chen thought that Lu Yanghua had sent someone to assassinate him, but Lu Yanghua died before he could personally avenge him, he felt a little pity. Could this be the so-called hateful people must have pitiful things? But then again, is now the best time to take back the Tianyan stone? Now that the strength of the Shenwu emperor has not been restored, I am afraid that even his quasi-emperor clone cannot beat him. If he can get close to the Shenwu Emperor at this time, he may be able to take back the Tianyan stone directly from the Shenwu Emperor. Once the Samsara stone is complete, some unexpected things may happen, or more memories of the previous life may be unlocked. It's just, the biggest problem now is how to get close to the Emperor Shenwu. The purple-robed cultivator just said that the Shenyu dynasty is very stable now, without any signs of unrest, and the emperors are still on the side of the Emperor Shenwu. With so many emperors protecting the Emperor Shenwu, it may not be easy to get close to the body of the Emperor Shenwu. Thinking of this, Lu Chen put the idea of taking back the Tianyan stone behind his mind, and he was not in a hurry for this moment. With his current cultivation speed, he may break through to become the Emperor of Heaven in less than 1,000 years. At that time, it will not be easy to take back the Tianyan stone. And the way of creation he cultivated is the starting point of thousands of great ways. Even if the Emperor Shenwu follows the way of killing, he has no advantage in front of him. His power of the Great Way restrains the Emperor Shenwu. Of course, it is not impossible to go to the Central Star region now. Now the universe is getting more and more chaotic, and he can just go to the Central Star region to find out some information about this universe. By the way, see if there is a chance to get close to the Emperor Shenwu. At the same time, Shenyu Dynasty, Emperor Star Heavenly Palace. Lu Yanghua stood at the edge of the Heavenly Palace, looking at the imperial capital below. Looking at the scenery in front of him, Lu Yanghua couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth slightly. Father, you didn't expect that you made so many preparations, but they were all prepared for me. I will absorb all your power and become more powerful. Lu Yanghua knew about the Emperor Shenwu's plan to seize the body very early. After all, he had 3 emperors from the Tianji Tower by his side. As for the cooperation between Tianji Tower and Shenyu Dynasty, it was just to reduce the vigilance of Emperor Shenwu. What Tianji Tower needs is an obedient puppet, not a so-called partner. Emperor Shenwu, who crawled out of the mountains of corpses and seas of blood step by step, is impossible to be obedient, but Lu Yanghua is different. Although Lu Yanghua also follows the path of killing, Lu Yanghua's foundation is unstable, and Lu Yanghua wants to get rid of the possession of Emperor Shenwu, and he also needs the cooperation of Tianji Tower. Such a chess piece will be obedient. Emperor Shenwu never thought that when he was taking possession of Lu Yanghua, he would be trapped by the Emperor of Tianji Tower using a formation, and his possession was reversed. Not only did he fail to take possession, but a large part of his power was absorbed by Lu Yanghua, and he ended up with his soul destroyed. After obtaining some of the power of the Emperor Shenwu, Lu Yanghua quickly stabilized the Shenyu dynasty with the assistance of the Tianji Tower. Although his strength was far inferior to that of the Emperor Shenwu, because of the existence of the killing power, ordinary emperors were not Lu Yanghua's opponents. Moreover, he practiced the Tianduo Gong, which can obtain the opponent's luck and power by killing. In this case, no one dared to anger Lu Yanghua. Lu Yanghua is now the new Emperor Shenwu. Although Lu Yanghua suddenly possessed supreme power, for some reason, he always felt that there was something missing. At this time, Lu Yanghua's mind appeared Lu Chen's appearance. He and Lu Chen did not have any life and death hatred, but when he thought of Lu Chen's pressure on him in everything. In addition, he needed to recover the dynasty luck on Lu Chen and let the luck of the entire Shenyu dynasty be added to him, which made him want to kill Lu Chen now. At this time, Lu Yanghua said to the person behind him, "Yingxia, go to Tianjin World in person and deal with Lu Chen." Chapter 11:22 Shadow Killer and Amp, #039, S Threat. Lu Yanghua was not sure whether Lu Chen returned to Tianjin World after escaping from the Shenyu dynasty, but he planned to send someone to check the situation first. After hearing Lu Yanghua's order, a middle-aged man slowly appeared in the shadow behind Lu Yanghua. The man was wearing a black robe and exuded a strong black evil aura. He is Shadow Killer, the emperor sent by Tianji Tower to protect Lu Yanghua. Of course, this is just one of them. After listening to Lu Yanghua's words, Shadow Shah said, "Your Majesty, Lu Chen may not have returned to Tianjin World. Why don't you ask the elders of Tianji Tower to deduce his position?" Lu Yanghua said, "No need, I have a hunch that he should still be in Tianjin World now." Lu Yanghua couldn't explain what this feeling was about. He felt that Lu Chen was still in the Tianqian world. He suspected that it was blood induction. Of course, Lu Yanghua didn't know that there was no blood connection between Lu Chen and him for a long time. Lu Chen's body was created by Lu Chen himself using the method of creation. After hearing what Lu Yanghua said, Shadow Xia said, I understand, I will go to Tianqian world now. Tianji Tower has countless branches in the universe, and the branches all have heaven-level teleportation arrays. They can be teleported directly from one star field group to another. If he wants to go to Tianqian world, he doesn't even need 10 days. The results will be known soon. The next moment, Yingxia's body disappeared on the spot. A smile appeared on Lu Yanghua's face again, and then he said to himself, when Lu Chen dies, only Lu Yuanzheng will be left. Lu Yuanzheng, where have you been hiding? It's really hard for me to find you. Lu Yuan was the first person other than Lu Chen to notice Emperor Shenwu's plan to seize the body. With Tianji Nu's secret blocking the way, it was not easy to find Lu Yuanzheng. However, Lu Yanghua did not give up looking for Lu Yuanzheng because of this. Only by killing all the descendants of Emperor Shenwu could he fully control the fate of the Shenyu dynasty. Therefore, Lu Yuanzheng and Lu Chen both had to die. 10 days later, Fengyang Star Territory. After Shadow Kill arrived at the outskirts of Fengyang Star Territory, he felt that there was an invisible force that excluded him and made him unable to move forward. Seeing the strange immortal boats coming and going in front of him, Yingxia frowned. How could a fringe star field have such a prosperous scene? What's going on with those black fairy boats? There are so many immortal boats in a marginal star field. No, those black flying boats don't look like fairy boats. There is no spiritual power flowing on them. Although there are formations on the surface, it is not spiritual power that provides the forward momentum for those black flying boats. Moreover, only the formations on each black flying boat use fairy gold. The amount of fairy gold used is very small, and most of the flying boats are made of that black metal. Something doesn't seem right here. After Yingxia thought for a while, he finally took the initiative and blasted towards Fengyang Star Territory with a palm. As soon as the palm print came out, it instantly became countless times larger. Soon the palm he waved became bigger than the stars. However, after such a huge palm hit the Fengyang Star Territory, it hit a transparent structure. In the world, it dissipated in an instant. Seeing a palm that turned into a point of light, Yingxia was stunned in the starry sky. He is the Great Emperor. The Emperor's palm can't break the restrictions outside the Fengyang Star Territory. Who set this ban? At this moment, a quasi-emperor appeared on the other side of the barrier. Zhang Qingfeng just saw a huge palm blasting towards Fengyang Star Territory in the barrier, so he immediately came over and prepared to stop it, but found that the palm dissipated instantly. This reminded him of a scene in the past when an empress used all her means outside the Fengyang Star Territory and was finally helpless and furious. Seeing someone coming, and it was just a quasi-emperor, Yingxia immediately threatened, I am sent by Emperor Shenyu. Lift the restriction immediately, otherwise you will be responsible for the consequences. Hearing this, Zhang Qingfeng was stunned for a moment, and then said with a smile, Senior, this restriction was not set by me. I am just a small quasi-emperor. How can I lift this level of restriction? Yingxia asked with a dark face, which dynasty rules this place? Call the leader of your dynasty to come out immediately. Zhang Qingfeng was about to say something when he suddenly felt a figure appear next to him. Zhang Qingfeng turned around and saw that it was Lu Chen's Guishu realm clone. He quickly saluted and said, I have met His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven. Hearing this title, Yingxia was in a trance. Emperor of Heaven. What a joke. Someone actually dares to call himself the Emperor of Heaven. After coming back to his senses, Yingxia sneered and said, How brave. A mere monk who has returned to the ruins realm actually dares to call himself the Emperor of Heaven. What gave you the courage? Lu Chen glanced at the shadow killer in front of him, and the next moment, the system interface popped up. Name, Shadow Kill. Identity, member of Tianji Tower, guard of Emperor Shenyu. Strength, Great Emperor First Level. Question mark. Loyalty, 0. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. How come the people from Tianji Tower became the guards around Emperor Shenyu? Emperor Shenyu should be talking about Lu Yinghua, right? When did Lu Yinghua become the emperor? Isn't he just a saint? His heaven-seizing technique was so exaggerated that he actually became the great emperor in such a short period of time. Seeing that Lu Chen didn't speak, Yingxia seemed a little impatient and threatened again. Remove the restriction immediately, otherwise the Shenyu soldiers will invade the territory and your star field will be filled with blood. Hearing this, Lu Chen chuckled, let our star field become a river of blood. Then I will wait here and see if your Shenyu dynasty has the ability to make our star field become a river of blood. Yingxia was a little unresponsive for a while. He had never expected that someone would dare to talk to him like this, especially after he had already pulled out the banner of the Shenyu dynasty. The other party actually still disdained it. Now even the superpowers at the Holy Land level are afraid that the Shenyu dynasty will launch a war against the outside world, and the lord of a marginal dynasty, who is only at the Guishu realm, dares to directly clamor for the Shenyu dynasty to attack them. Yingxia even suspected that he had traveled to another universe. When did the people in the marginal star field become so arrogant? Could it be that this person is just a clone, and there are strong people behind him? Yingxia quickly calmed down and thought carefully. It is impossible that a person who can set up a ban that even the emperor cannot easily break is just a cultivator at the Guishu realm. Even if the ruler of this dynasty is really just a cultivator in the Guishu realm, there must be a very powerful emperor behind this cultivator, otherwise how could the other party be so arrogant? However, no matter what powerful people are behind the other party, no matter how strong their background is, if they dare to provoke the current Shenyu dynasty, they are looking for death. Yingxia did not intend to talk nonsense. Anyway, he had no way to break the ban of this star field and could not go to the Tianqian world. It happened that the Shenyu dynasty was preparing to launch a war against the outside world, so he would take advantage of this dynasty. Yingxia then turned around and said, I hope you can be as arrogant as today next time we are here. As soon as the voice fell, Yingxia left directly. Chapter 1123. Pass on my order, send troops to Tianqian world immediately. After seeing Yingxia leave, Zhang Qingfeng turned to look at Lu Chen and asked with some worry, Your Majesty, that person is the envoy of the Shenyu dynasty after all. If we offend them like this, I'm afraid. Zhang Qingfeng did not dare to continue talking. He also knew that the Shenyu dynasty was the dynasty that launched the most wars in the Central Star territory. The reputation of the Shenyu dynasty had already spread to the entire universe. After hearing Zhang Qingfeng's words, Lu Chen just said lightly, Since you are all called Emperor Tian, you shouldn't worry about these things. Hearing this, Zhang Qingfeng was stunned for a moment. To be honest, Emperor of Heaven was just a title in his opinion. Except for people from the Tianwo clan, no one really thought that Lu Chen was Emperor of Heaven. Now that the Emperor of Heaven has said this, does that mean that it is really possible for his cultivation to reach that of the Emperor of Heaven in the future, or does it mean that he is already the Emperor of Heaven now? Otherwise, he would not be able to talk like this to the Emperor of the Shenyu dynasty. When Zhang Qingfeng thought of this possibility, his breathing became rapid. That was the Emperor of Heaven. It is a realm that many great emperors in the universe dream of, but it seems that the entire universe has never taken that step. Lu Chen continued at this time, Okay, you are optimistic about Fengyang Star territory, I will go back first. As soon as the words fell, Lu Chen's clone turned and left. Zhang Qingfeng came back to his senses and quickly said to the void, Congratulations to your majesty. 6 days later, Shenyu dynasty. Palace in Heaven. Lu Yinghua turned his back to Yingxia and stood on the edge of the heavenly palace, looking at the scenery below. After listening to Shadow Killer's report, Lu Yinghua couldn't help but chuckle, how dare cats and dogs look down on the Shenyu dynasty? Is it possible that they think that after the death of my father, the Shenyu dynasty declined? That there is nothing they can do about it? How dare a dynasty leader from the edge of the universe be so arrogant? That's great. It seems it's time. Pass my order and immediately send troops to Tianqian world. I will wipe out all the dynasties encountered along the way. Liu Yanghua believes that even a dynasty on the edge of the universe dares to look down on the current Shenyu dynasty, which means that more dynasties actually think so in their hearts. Therefore, he urgently needs to launch a war to wake up those who look down on the Shenyu dynasty and him. It just so happens that he also needs to become stronger through killing and seizing the heavens, so foreign war is urgent. After hearing Liu Yanghua's words, Shadow Shah immediately said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Soon, the major star regions under the rule of the Shenyu dynasty began to recruit troops crazily, and the number of immortal ships and armies increased dramatically. It didn't take long for the number of soldiers to exceed the peak of the Shenyu dynasty. Seeing that the Shenyu dynasty suddenly began to mobilize troops on a large scale, the superpowers in the universe became nervous. Even the superpowers at the Holy Land level began to prepare for war. Those superpowers did not underestimate the Shenyu dynasty because of the fall of Emperor Shenwu. They knew much more than ordinary powers. The current Shenyu dynasty has the support of Tianji Tower behind it. In addition, the new leader of the Shenyu dynasty has used some method to enhance his strength to the realm of the great emperor. Moreover, Liu Yanghua also uses the way of killing and practices to seize the power. Tian Gong, these combined, his threat has far exceeded any superpower in the universe. Some superpowers even believe that today's Shenyu dynasty is more terrifying than those demon cities. Central Star Field, Tianyuan World. A man wearing a black cloak and a hat was walking through the busy street. At this time, the monks on the entire street were talking about the Shenyu dynasty's imminent war. The Shenyu dynasty has indeed launched a war. The wolf's ambition has long been expected by our palace master. The new leader of the Shenyu dynasty is really anxious. Can you not be anxious? What he practices is the way of killing, plus some kind of heaven-seizing technique. If he wants to improve his strength, he must start a war. Fortunately, he is only attacking a certain dynasty on the edge of the universe this time. I heard that it is mainly to attack a world called Tianshan World. It should not affect us for the time being. You are so naive. We are in the Central Star territory with the Shenyu dynasty. Sooner or later, the war will affect us. The superpowers should join forces to nip this scourge in the cradle. I think you are also naive. He has Tianji Tower behind him. If he wants to limit the Shenyu dynasty, he must defeat Tianji Tower first. How many superpowers in the universe are Tianji Tower's opponents? Well, for a time, the whole street was filled with various sighs. After hearing people's comments, Lu Chen was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Liu Yanghua actually mobilized troops to attack the Xia Dynasty. Isn't it? Strictly speaking, he and Liu Yanghua had no life or death feud. It's just that in his previous life, his talent was better than Liu Yanghua's, and he overpowered Liu Yanghua in everything, which made Liu Yanghua jealous of him. But now that Liu Yanghua himself is the emperor, and even the head of the Shenyu dynasty, why is he still so petty? At this time, a monk next to Lu Chen said, "It's strange to say, why did the Shenyu dynasty go to attack the dynasty on the edge of the universe?" This old man knows that it is said that the 9th prince of the Shenyu dynasty is in that Tianshan world. He is already the lord of the dynasty, but he still goes after his brothers. He can't tolerate his brothers. Is it possible that he got the position illegitimately? What do you mean by illegitimately? He wants to eliminate all the blood of the Emperor Shenwu, and then gather all the dynasty luck that was divided from them on him. So that's how it is. After hearing the discussion of these cultivators, Lu Chen reacted and asked why Liu Yanghua still came to trouble him. It turned out that it was for the dynasty luck of the Shenyu dynasty. But then again, Liu Yanghua probably didn't know that when he became the emperor, all the luck of the Shenyu dynasty on him was transformed into the luck of the Xia dynasty. Killing him won't get the luck of the Shenyu dynasty. Of course, Liu Yanghua can get the dynasty luck of the Xia dynasty. Unfortunately, it's not that easy for Liu Yanghua to kill him. With the immortal umbrella, unless the Emperor of Heaven appears on Liu Yanghua's side, they can't even enter the star field ruled by the Great Xia Dynasty, let alone kill him. However, although he knew that Liu Yanghua would eventually have no way to deal with the Great Xia Dynasty, Lu Chen still planned to make some preparations. If Liu Yanghua came to attack the Great Xia Dynasty in person, he might be able to find an opportunity for Liu Yanghua to be alone, and then he could snatch the Heavenly Evolution Stone from Liu Yanghua. I just don't know if the Heavenly Evolution Stone is still in Liu Yanghua's hands. Thinking of this, Lu Chen's main body, who was far away in the Tianqian world, withdrew from Chu Yunji and directly convened a meeting of cultivators in the Great Xia Dynasty. When the quasi-emperors of the Great Xia Dynasty heard that a superpower was going to attack them, they all looked panicked. But they soon realized that they also had an emperor who mastered the great Tao of killing. If they really started fighting, the Great Xia Dynasty might not be the opponent of the other party. Chapter 11:24 Shuhua, Be My Woman. Although the Great Xia Dynasty was created by Lu Chen, most of the monks from the forces were more willing to believe in the strength of Empress Tianong. After all, Empress Tianong masters the method of killing. But Lu Chen didn't care about this. It didn't matter whether people from the Great Xia Dynasty believed in him or not. Empress Tianong was also his woman anyway. They are husband and wife, and believing in Empress Tianong is equivalent to believing in him. Of course, with the fairy umbrella here, even if they don't believe in themselves and want to betray the Great Xia Dynasty, they can't leave. Lu Chen has mobilized the power of the fairy umbrella to separate the Great Xia Dynasty from other star regions. If he wants to go out or come in, he must destroy the barrier created by the fairy umbrella. Otherwise, he can only stand on the edge of the barrier, staring in front of the interface. In the main hall, Lu Chen glanced at the people attending the meeting, and then said, "If you have anything else you want to say, you can put it forward now." Upon hearing this, one of the quasi-emperors immediately said, "Your Majesty, should we take the initiative, or should we defend ourselves and wait for the other party to attack?" With the emperor in control of the killing, the people of the Great Xia Dynasty had a certain degree of confidence, and some of them were thinking of taking the initiative to attack. Hearing this question, Lu Chen said lightly, "It is naturally a passive defense. The Shenyu dynasty has more than a dozen emperors on the surface, and there may be even more emperors secretly. There is no need to confront them head-on. As long as they stay in the Great Xia Dynasty and the Shenyu dynasty without the Emperor of Heaven, they will not be able to break the restrictions I have set." Speaking of restrictions, Lu Chen paused for a moment, and then asked, "I believe you all already know that there are restrictions on the periphery of the Great Xia Dynasty, right?" People in the hall looked at me, and I looked at you, and finally their eyes fell on Lu Chen. They have indeed noticed the existence of that restriction. Now, except for the soldiers of the War Dragon Army who can enter and exit the Great Xia Dynasty, no one else has the means to leave the Great Xia Dynasty. Likewise, people from outside cannot come in. At this time, Pei Shuhua, the chief sitting on the right side of the hall, asked, "Your Majesty, can this restriction really withstand the Emperor's attack?" Lu Chen replied calmly, "To be precise, it can withstand the attacks of all great emperors. Unless the opponent is the Emperor of Heaven, it will not threaten the safety of the Great Xia Dynasty." As soon as these words came out, the entire hall was silent, and people had expressions of disbelief on their faces. If what the Emperor of Heaven said was true, wouldn't the Great Xia Dynasty be already in an invincible position? However, can Emperor Xia really impose such a powerful restriction? At this time, Zhang Qingfeng said, "The prohibition imposed by His Majesty has been tested. 2 great emperors have attacked the prohibition imposed by His Majesty. As a result, they used various methods and failed to destroy the prohibition." Having said this, Zhang Qingfeng raised his hand, and a projection screen appeared in the main hall. In the picture, an emperor's Dharma image was frantically attacking the Fengyang Star territory. As a result, the emperor's various attacks seemed to be blocked by a blue barrier, and the blue barrier did nothing. Immediately afterwards, the scene turned, and another emperor in black robes appeared to take action against the Fengyang Star territory, but the result was still the same. The black-robed emperor also did not have any impact on the ban outside the Fengyang Star territory. After seeing the effect of this restriction with their own eyes, the people in the hall became more confident in defeating the Shenyu dynasty. After Zhang Qingfeng took back the projection screen, Lu Chen asked again, "Do you have any other ideas? If not, go back and prepare." Everyone looked at me and me again. Seeing that no one had anything to say, they all stood up and said in unison, "Your Majesty, please leave." After the salute, people left one after another, but when everyone turned to leave, one person turned back and looked in Lu Chen's direction. At this time, Pei Tianlu, who was about to leave, seemed to notice something, so he turned around and found that Pei Shuhua was looking at Lu Chen with a troubled expression. Seeing this scene, Pei Tianlu instantly understood what was going on. Then he turned around with a smile on his face and left the hall with brisk steps. After everyone present left, only Lu Chen and Pei Shuhua were left in the entire hall. Pei Shuhua still just looked at Lu Chen and said nothing. Seeing Pei Shuhua staring at him, Lu Chen knew that his main body would be busy again later. Pei Shuhua was wearing a green gauze dress today, and a delicate lotus belt wrapped around her waist. Her convex figure was particularly obvious. The gauze dress clings to her body, and the skin underneath seems to be looming. The hair left in the bun is draped in front of her shoulders. The whole person looks gentle and dignified. Lu Chen smiled and asked knowingly, "Shuhua, do you have anything else to do?" Pei Shuhua did not answer immediately. There was a struggling expression on her face. To be honest, she didn't know what kind of feelings she felt towards Lu Chen in her heart. When it comes to love, she doesn't think it should be more of a gratitude. Over the years, she has been thinking about a question. Lu Chen has done her such a big favor, should she commit herself to him? At her level, love is not particularly important. She is not particularly resistant to this kind of thing unless she is criticized by Lu Chen. But she was still a little confused and a little entangled. She thought that Lu Chen had so many women and there was no shortage of her. Is it really necessary for her to send them to Lu Chen's door to play with? Lu Chen knew that Pei Shuhua was already wavering in her heart. What she lacked now was courage. At this time, she needed someone to push her. Thinking of this, Lu Chen did not hesitate at all. His body flashed and he appeared in front of Pei Shuhua the next moment. Pei Shuhua was slightly distracted by Lu Chen's sudden appearance. She subconsciously wanted to retreat, but Lu Chen suddenly stretched out his hand and forcefully pulled her soft body into his arms. Pei Shuhua wanted to struggle, but found that she had no strength at all. Lu Chen's big hand was around her willow waist. She was so weak that she could not push Lu Chen away. Lu Chen lowered his head slightly and stared at Pei Shuhua's eyes with a firm gaze. "Shuhua, be my woman." Lu Chen did not say too many sweet words. He knew that for Pei Shuhua, he only needed to push her a little bit and Pei Shuhua would agree to him. After Pei Shuhua came to her senses, she looked at Lu Chen calmly and asked, "Is this an order from His Majesty?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "You can think so." Pei Shuhua said, "In that case, I have no choice." Lu Chen said, "You were right. I fell in love with you the first time I saw you. From that time on, you can't escape from my palm." Pei Shuhua said, "Your Majesty is really overbearing." His Majesty's women were also forcibly occupied by His Majesty. At this time, Lu Chen's big hand slowly moved around Pei Shuhua's waist and gradually moved down. Some are not. End of this chapter. Chapter 1125 Is Your Majesty the Master at this moment? After noticing the small movements on Lu Chen's hand, Pei Shuhua's face turned slightly red. Even if she didn't care about love in her heart, her body would still have some reaction to being touched so closely by Lu Chen. But she still looked directly into Lu Chen's eyes. At this time, she saw the burning possessiveness in Lu Chen's eyes. When she saw his eyes, she knew that she couldn't escape today. Since she chose to stay, there was only one outcome. Pei Shuhua fell into silence at this time, but her eyes were still connected with Lu Chen's. After a while, Lu Chen said, "Let's change places." Before Pei Shuhua could say anything, Lu Chen used the space movement technique in the next moment, and soon the two of them arrived at a smoke-filled palace. For people of their level, the smoke in the room is not choking. The smoke spreads between the gaps in the curtains, making the whole room feel like a dream. In the corner of the room, there was a big bed. The big bed was made of fairy gold and inlaid with many sparkling gems. The occasional light emitted by these gems in the smoke made the entire palace more dreamy. As soon as Pei Shuhua was in such an environment, she felt a little dizzy. At this time, Lu Chen was still hugging Pei Shuhua's waist. The two of them were getting closer and closer, and the atmosphere was becoming more and more ambiguous. Well, correct U003 aversion hash is first posted on 69 bookbar. This edition equals Xiao carat Shuo. After all, in order to practice the way of killing, one needs to practice with Lu Chen for a long time, which has certain requirements on Lu Chen's physical strength and strength. The other is the way of love. The more powerful Lu Chen is, the more powerful she will be, stable. Seeing that Lu Chen's lips were about to close to hers, Pei Shuhua suddenly said, "Is His Majesty the main body at this moment?" Lu Chen discovered that as the two of them practiced longer, the Taoist charm in Pei Shuhua became stronger, and the Taoist charm in her seemed to have a high affinity for him. His body was created by him using the method of creation. Whatever clones of the main body he can have, in fact, all of them can be regarded as the main body. Under Lu Chen's guidance, Pei Shuhua soon collapsed in Lu Chen's arms. If Lu Chen hadn't supported her, she would have fallen to the ground the next moment. For him, in fact, there is no so-called clone of the main body at all. This is just a way of identifying his body's cultivation. She also heard the implication of Lu Chen's words. The higher Lu Chen's physical state, the stronger his strength. Naturally, his ability to do such things will also be very powerful. Lu Chen raised his right hand, stroked Pei Shuhua's jade cheek and said, "Don't worry, if you need the main body and you to practice together, then from now on I will use the main body to practice together with you." Most of Lu Chen's women would not distinguish too much between Lu Chen's main body and secondary body, and they even hoped that Lu Chen would not use his main body to practice double cultivation with them. Although he was a little curious about why Pei Shuhua's Daoyun was released at this time, Lu Chen did not ask further questions. Now is not the time to talk about this. Asking questions about Pei Shuhua's Daoyun at this time would be ruining the atmosphere. "Shuhua, I will help you practice now." Hearing Lu Chen's response, Pei Shuhua's cheeks became even hotter. Tear, pull, hem. The realm of the main body is too high and the strength is too strong. During the dual cultivation, the spiritual power in the body is too abundant. When the spiritual power of the two parties meet, the spiritual power in their bodies will be dragged by the spiritual power of Lu Chen's main body and run wildly. Just like surfing on the sea, which soon became unbearable for them. Pei Shuhua tried hard to control her emotions and calm down. "Isn't it just dual cultivation? It's not a big deal." Then Lu Chen replied, "What you want to ask is whether my current body is the one with the highest level, right?" At this time, Pei Shuhua's starry eyes were filled with waves, and her entire jade face was occupied by red clouds. She stared at Lu Chen, who was looking down at her, and the Taoist charm in her body was unknowingly released. Lu Chen was slightly stunned. Pei Shuhua followed the path of guardianship. She was not Chu Yunji. How could her Daoyun be released on its own at this time? Seeing that the time was ripe, Lu Chen helped her to the soft couch and gently placed her in the middle of the soft couch. The next moment, a voice sounded in the room. Feeling that her clothes were gradually disappearing, Pei Shuhua subconsciously wanted to cover it with her hands, but Lu Chen grabbed her wrist with one hand. Pei Shuhua said softly, "She is already an emperor, why should she be afraid of this?" Just when Pei Shuhua was comforting herself, Lu Chen sank down and kissed her warm lips again. Therefore, most of Lu Chen's wives and concubines actually prefer to be with Lu Chen's secondary body, which is a dual body with weaker cultivation. Among the bodies created by Lu Chen, the most popular among the wives and concubines is the body from the Gui Shu realm. The Gui Shu realm not only ensures the strength and ability of the body, but also can have a good effect when practicing with them. At the same time, it will not make them too tortured. Of course, there are exceptions to everything. Empress Tianong and Chu Yunji actually prefer to practice with Lu Chen's main body. The next moment, Lu Chen's lips touched Pei Shuhua's soft lips, and the four lips met, and Pei Shuhua's mind went blank for a while. Being stared at by Lu Chen so meaningfully, Pei Shuhua always felt a little ashamed. Although Pei Shuhua didn't care about having sex with Lu Chen, but since she wanted to do it, she had to choose his body. She didn't want to be fooled by Lu Chen. Lu Chen soon understood what was going on. After he completely possessed Pei Shuhua, he became the person that Pei Shuhua must protect in her heart. This stabilized Pei Shuhua's Dao heart, and her Dao of protection became more perfect. The Dao rhyme of the Dao of protection has improved his cultivation speed to a certain extent. The effect of dual cultivation was already negligible for him, but this time, he and Pei Shuhua practiced dual cultivation together, and his realm actually showed signs of another breakthrough. Hearing this question, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. He did not expect Pei Shuhua to ask this question. At this point, Lu Chen looked at Pei Shuhua with a smile. In this smoky environment, facing Lu Chen, the handsome lifesaver, even if Pei Shuhua is already an emperor, it is difficult not to be emotional. Seeing that the ambiguous atmosphere has been set off, Lu Chen did not continue to drag it on and came over directly. In the past, she only wanted to protect the common people of the Red Moon Dynasty. Now there is one more person she wants to protect, and this person is more important to her. Unfortunately, the way of protection is the way of protection after all, which is different from the way of killing and the way of love. Pei Shuhua practiced with Lu Chen's main body for the first time, which was a huge challenge for her. When facing a woman who was new to this kind of practice, Lu Chen never showed any sympathy. At this moment, Pei Shuhua supported Lu Chen's chest with both hands and said in a weak tone, "Your Majesty. Your Majesty, I won't waste your time. You, leave a Guishu realm, just a clone, End of this chapter. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.